OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
All right, it's Wednesday morning. You're very welcome along to OTB AM. It's Ger and Eoin with you all the way through until 10 this morning. If you would like to get in touch with us, we'd love to hear from you. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. You can get us at Off the Ball AM on Twitter. You can also leave a comment on the YouTube stream, or however it is you want to get in touch with us. We are open to it this morning. Owen, you have returned. I don't know about recovered, but you've returned at least from Manchester.
I have indeed. Yeah, the warm afterglow of an evening at the Premier League is still here.
It is good though.
No, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. Like, I mean, the cancel plans to redevelop Old Trafford.
It doesn't need it now.
Keep your money in your pockets.
All of the issues that the fans have disappeared. I saw Glazers In was trending yesterday, and I was like, is this like still the ironic pre-match stuff from the anti-Man United fans, or is this now like a bunch of Man United fans are like, actually, you know what? I mean, better the devil you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Glazers have pressed a button on bringing Casemiro in and all the other good stuff.
And the other buttons that they're hovering over.
Yes, exactly. So all is well in the world of Manchester United. I guess I did see Raphael Varane come out yesterday. Well, the comments were only published yesterday, and he says, "This is why I came to Manchester United to play these games." And it is a pretty strong sell. Casemiro on Monday night is like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. The problem is though, you still have to go to the Brentford Community Stadium. It's not Liverpool on a Monday night every single week, and that is going to be one of the issues you would suspect for Manchester United over the course of the season. The boring games.
They're too big time Charlie.
Possibly. I think that the evidence of the first three games is that their best performance has come in the game where there was the most pressure on them against the best opposition. And
you generally say that's a good thing, though.
You would. Yeah, but the thing is, the vast majority of your games are not against Liverpool or Manchester City.
I know, but every game, Man United, the cup final for the opposition, right?
Yeah.
Everybody raised the game, and other such cliches.
And other such cliches. Like, you would think that, I mean, the psychology that Erik ten Hag has brought to the table, whether it's like running 13.8 kilometres and running alongside them, no less.
I see that, yeah.
That's the sort of thing that makes every week a cup final.
The little narratives around him have started to, like, the little sparks are being fanned into flames. What a legend. He ran 13 kilometres.
Yeah, we just got to embrace this moment where, like, I mean, like,
he dropped an F-bomb on TV. Oh, such character.
He is such a character.
I mean, I'm not saying he's not, but it's just like, you know, we need to be careful here about the little bits of the character which we're like, oh, wow, well, yes. I mean, in fairness, he dropped Harry Maguire, which was a good thing.
And Monday was also like 1/3 of his entire competitive campaign as a Manchester United manager, so we can properly overreact to 1/3 of
33% of the evidence.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see why Manchester United fans would react like that, and why they would want to be excited. But definitely felt that there was like a lot of criticism even of the manager last week. You know, sort of questions about, you know, his public demeanour, how he would behave in press conferences, and, you know, are the early signs there that Ten Hag is going to be a failure? To this week being like, are the early signs there that Ten Hag is Alex Ferguson, just Dutch?
Kieran Shannon wrote a good piece last week in the Examiner about how at the start at Ajax things went really badly pear-shaped, and Ten Hag and Van der Sar the fans were calling for them both to be sacked as a unit, and then he wrote it out and then won every league title afterwards. So a sticky start is not something that he's unused to. But anyway, look, you've become famous globally for understanding fan culture in a way that I don't know if anybody, like, apart from one of those hipster brands, does. You know, like Puma or somebody.
Yeah, like, exactly. I mean,
the Puma of the sports journalism world.
I am the Puma. That's not the first time it's been said about me, of course. You know, so yeah, like we brought you some coverage of the protest yesterday. Some new details have emerged actually about some of the fan protests. Like there was bottles thrown at a bus outside the toll gate.
Had you seen some of this? So
I have footage on my phone. Well, to be fair, like, it did look like about maybe 2 or 3 bottles / cans max at a bus, which I assumed was either A, the Liverpool team bus, but I presume it wasn't, because they wouldn't drive down that way, or B, just Liverpool fans, even though the bus had Manchester emblazoned on the side of it. There's been reports this morning now that it was actually Manchester United fans in the bus, children actually, that were inside it. Somebody's actually given an interview talking about that. So there's more details that have come out to emerge around the protest yesterday, but I guess there was also then the aftermath of the game. A lot of happy Manchester United fans.
But just before we get to the video, right, because you were saying yesterday when you were on that, like, there was a bit of tension until the protest officially started. Did it feel like it could have gone either way type thing? Like,
it didn't. It was just, I think when people were gathered around the toll gate. I guess you have that situation where you do have stuff being launched at Manchester United fans in a bus, as it turned out. Now, they obviously didn't know at the time. Doesn't excuse throwing stuff at a bus. You could argue as well. It definitely felt if something was going to happen, it would have been there. I didn't feel like anything was going to kick off. There was it wasn't even like an overwhelming police presence. I think if they had suspected that something bad what might happen, there would have been a much bigger police presence. Now there was of course a presence, but nothing overbearing. It was just I just got the sense that maybe there was just people there in particular who definitely didn't want media there. Like a guy came up to me and was like, I don't want to be on that on your video there, and I was like, it's like pointing nowhere near you. Like a guy went out of his way to walk towards me and was like, I don't want to be on that video. It's like, I don't even, who are you? Like, why are you coming over to me? And
he's going over to threaten you, to intimidate you.
Possibly. And then, and there were just kind of a couple of other moments like that.
You're too naive to be intimidated. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, too naive to be
intimidated. Hey, what's the big deal? Well, God, go away. Just giant tattooed shaved head.
They're like, these are just things that happen. They're not things that you're like, oh, there's something bad could happen here. Not at all. It's just that sort of stuff just didn't happen at all during
you felt more unsafe in the midst of the Mayo fans at
yes,
at
exactly.
McHale Park.
100%. Now don't get me started on the Mayo fans and some of the stuff that they.
It's your last week. You can say what you want now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've gone on a journey with Mayo fans, I think.
Now that you're All Ireland champions, you can
I can patronise them.
You can pat their bums.
Well, precisely. So I to say that it kind of like felt unsafe, I think, is like putting too strong a point on it. It's not that. I would like to sit here and be like, oh, it was Green Street style stuff, and I was being called Ger and Eoin and all that sort of stuff. That was not the case. But once the thing started moving, it was much better.
Okay, well, what are we about to watch?
This is post-match. This is in the environs of Old Trafford and down Sir Matt Busby Way and down Talbot Road and a few of the establishments there. Just did what I always do. I just caught up with joyous fans after they'd beaten an arch rival. So a lot of tourists in this video, a lot of Mancunians in this video, a lot of Irish in this video. This is Manchester United fans celebrating their 2-1 win over Liverpool on Monday night.
Effort, commitment, balls, running.
I mean, that was the game, man. That was the game we've all been waiting for. You know, that was the turning point. We needed this win. Now we've got Casemiro coming into our midfield again. It can only get better, you know what I mean?
Does Harry Maguire get back in the team?
No, please. No.
At the start of the game, I thought we were going to get hammered. After the first goal, I was just like so shocked, surprised.
Next season, we're going to fight for the league. Remember this. Next season, we're going to fight for the league.
Hi, I'm Nina. I came from the United States. This is my first time at Old Trafford. I am excited. I think it was an awesome game. The defense, everything was awesome. No. This was an awesome game.
You excited about Casemiro?
Absolutely, yes. The best midfielder, number 6 in the world. No one comparing with Casemiro. No one in the world.
Glazers out. 2-1 means nothing. Glazers out, you dirty Robin.
The game was great, but Bayern Munich is better than Manchester United.
Are you from Munich?
We are from Munich, yes.
So what brought you to a Manchester United game then?
The game was very good, but Ronaldo came too late in the game.
Yeah. You came here to see Ronaldo basically, did you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Should have come on earlier, shouldn't he? Should have come on earlier. So.
It's all right. No.
Turned up tonight, no ticket for the game. I just come to protest. We marched with the 1958 group. No trouble from what I could see. I just hope that the messages got through loud and clear. It doesn't matter whether they won tonight or not. It wasn't about the result. It was about sending a message that we've had enough. Enough's enough. Do you want to see my banner?
Yes, please, actually. How does it feel as a Manchester United fan to not be in there tonight and they beat Liverpool? I know it's a tricky question, but it
was hard, don't get me wrong, but it was still worth coming. Yeah. It's still worth. I mean, we're staying here overnight. It was still worth it just to come and, like, you know, I'm sick of sitting there moaning about it. I just felt like I needed to do something. Not that I'm going to make a difference on my own, but you know what I mean. I just felt like
thousands of you will.
Yeah. I just felt like I needed to come and do it in the right way, and where it's going to get seen.
Is that hard to walk the walk rather than just talk the talk?
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, so we're from the States, all of us. You know?
Oh yeah, I'm also from the States. Yeah.
Nice. Oh man, I mean, unbelievable. There's a reason they call it the Theatre of Dreams.
Can I ask, how hard is it to get around Old Trafford on crutches?
Do you know what? It's actually easier than you think. Hey, Glazer's out, my dad. Glazer's out. Let's do that. Glazer's out.
Martinez was incredible too. I really thought. I mean, honestly, just a vast improvement from last week. I mean, really, it's just all around better.
Okay, my name is Manish. I'm from Switzerland, born. Living there, and since 90s I'm a Manchester United fan.
Are you sure you're not a Young Boys fan?
No, never, ever.
I feel amazing. Nice. First day in England, saw the first goal in 2 years, stood up there, heard the chants, man, met these Irish blokes over here, huh? Yes, these lads, man, it is absolutely amazing.
My name is Raymond. I'm from Norway. But Erling Haaland, you know, I'm from Norway. Same. We are from the same area, Bryne, in Norway. So I know him a little bit. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Are you friends on Facebook?
No, but I'm friend with his father.
On Facebook?
Yeah.
And like, do you ever like slide into his DMs? Do you ever chat to him?
No, I don't chat with him. But when I see him, I say hi and yeah.
So why didn't you get on to Alfie and ask him to persuade Erling to move to Manchester United?
No, I don't. No, I couldn't do that.
You've let your whole football club down.
No, I didn't.
My favorite part about today was probably pre-gaming with the people in the tunnel. And a dude snuck a flask of Jameson in, and we went after it.
Who do you prefer, Alfie Haaland or Roy Keane?
Difficult question.
And what is your answer?
I think it's wrong for me to answer that question.
You don't have an opinion, no?
I don't have an opinion.
I'm from Seattle, huh? So, in the Seahawks, loudest stadium in the country, and you don't have the. It's not in your blood. You're just a fan. But, you know, players don't die out here, or in Seattle. Players die out here.
Yeah.
You know, they'll kill you if you don't have a good game, man.
Yeah.
Shit, watch the Rooney documentary, right? Rooney's that guy's a gentleman and a scholar right there.
My name is Anders from Oslo, Norway.
Who do you prefer, Alfie Haaland or Roy Keane?
Roy Keane, any day.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Alfie?
Yeah, oh yeah. For sure.
Leave your countryman.
Oh yeah. He deserved that tackle.
Yeah.
So yeah, Roy Keane any day of the week.
What did you make of the Liverpool fans today?
Come on, man. Go Man U, baby. Yeah. First day in England, Liverpool, man. Oh yeah, no, I bought the jersey today.
Oh, nice.
On the way to the game. Bought the ticket outside the stadium. I love it, man. I'll die a Man U fan now.
How long were you a Man U fan before today?
12 hours.
Yeah, we're from Norway. All from you.
I'll ask you the same question again.
Of course.
Alfie Haaland or Roy Keane?
Roy Keane. We have to go for Roy Keane.
No doubts.
No doubts. Alfie Haaland, he's too old.
MLS sucks, right? MLS is the worst league ever. Soft, you know. Out here, it's a different game, man, and that's what I'm looking for. And this is my first experience, especially first time in that stadium, which is a hard ticket. I'll die a Man U fan, brother.
I think you and Graham Souness will get on quite well.
I do too.
The Scouts up United.
I thought you said you wanted to say hello to your mum.
Hi, ma'am. Are you proud of me?
I was saying that sounded like a Cork accent at the end there, was it?
It certainly is, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't get away from the, what we call them yesterday, the Colm Boyle generation.
Yeah.
Manchester United.
There's a lot of them.
There is a lot of them.
Yeah. It's like being John Malkovich, they have booing faces. How was that experience? How would you compare that versus, you know, other fan groups that you've done that with?
Yeah. Very, very good. Very receptive to the whole project, I guess. Well, I think I was making the point yesterday morning that there isn't necessarily like one kind of like hub for it to be like fish in a barrel stuff. You kind of have to do a little bit of work. You have to kind of like walk around and try and find where people are.
You're
probably just going to
opening the kimono again and going, I'm a genuine scoop monster here. Look at me. You couldn't you had to work really hard to find Seattle guy, Norwegian families.
Yeah, I think maybe everybody just went into town and I just did not do that.
Scoop Monster means something different, I suppose. 7:45 this morning here on OTB AM. We'd love to hear from you. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. Here's what's coming up between now and 10 o'clock.
Hey, Owen.
Oh.
I heard you're leaving the shores from the south of Ireland to South America. Listen, it's a great opportunity. The best of luck now on your travels. Hope you have a great time. You'll be sadly missed on the radio all across Ireland. You've been brilliant the last couple of years with Off the Ball. Really professional and great passion for all sports. So listen, thanks for all your work. You were wonderful to work with. You knew probably everything about everything, which made it much easier to work with. So fair play to you, Owen. Congratulations on everything you've achieved so far, and hopefully you'll be back pretty soon. So best of luck, Owen, and thank you.
Good man, Tommy Walsh. You've been good for the last couple of years. First few, not so good, but at least there was an improvement towards the end.
I was very confused. I was about to start talking. I genuinely thought that was live. Hello, Tommy.
It's like one of those answering machines.
Yeah.
You're the easiest man to prank in the world. Right, here's what's actually coming up between now and 10 o'clock. Colm Boyle is going to join us at 8:10. We have White Smoke, and we know who the new Mayo manager is going to be. It is a dream team ticket. It's been a long time in the making, and we'll get his thoughts on what the future is for Kevin McStay. Sports pages at 8:35. Billy Lee, the Limerick football manager, has stepped down. We've got an exclusive with him at 8:50 this morning. Sene Naoupu is going to join us at 9:10 to reflect on her incredible career with the Irish Rugby team, and then we'll have some Kevin Kilbane goodness. What's rare is wonderful coming your way at 9:30 this morning. A reminder that champions Rob Carney, Johnny Murtagh and Ger Lyons will join Off the Ball for our Longines Irish Champions Weekend special in the Davenport Hotel. It's this Friday, August the 26th. It starts at 7 o'clock, and obviously the weekend that they're previewing is the Champions Weekend at Leopardstown and the Curragh on Saturday and Sunday the weekend, September 10th and 11th. This is an exclusive off-air event, and the only way to enjoy it is to be there on the night. Tickets for the show are free, but please register at otbsports.com/events for tickets. The news obviously has come through. We knew that Tomás O'Shea was going to be the under-20 manager for Kerry, but it looks like it's intelligent succession planning going on here.
Yeah, it does. When you look at the backroom team as well, I think Colm Keys makes the point today that there's probably been few under-20 coaching tickets that have ever had the level of medals that are involved in it. So Brian Sheehan and Seamus Moynihan are going to go in with them, and you've also got Sean Walsh, the former Munster GAA chairman, who's going to go in with them as well, which is an interesting element of it. So this looks like a ticket that, if it succeeds, will probably be in with a good shout of stepping up to senior level at some point in the future. I think every county, when they look at their next senior manager, probably should be looking at the under-20 job as a way of stepping up. Obviously the club game in the county is hugely important as well, but maybe 12 months ago it wasn't necessarily clear who the next Kerry manager would be. It felt that there was like a cohort of managers who were maybe a little bit too inexperienced or wanted to get a bit more experience themselves, whereas now it feels like this Tomás, it could be a very interesting prospect if it has some level of success over the next couple of years.
Also, it seems like other counties had been interested in Tomás. He had clearly signalled that he was interested in getting involved at that level of the game, and Kerry have moved relatively quickly to make sure that, well, we'll just have a look at you first.
Yeah, like the work commitments was something that was cited for not taking the Offaly job. I would suspect that taking an under-20s job
totally different.
It's totally different, and it's just, even if the commitment at the time is on a par with senior inter-county management, it's just a shorter season. So it's probably something that's more manageable when he looks at the whole year ahead. Like, I'm sure that there are senior inter-county managers right now who feel like they haven't got an off season at all, because they go straight from the inter-county season to just making sure they're there at every single club game that they could possibly be at, trying to take notes for the following year. So it is pretty full on, and obviously he felt that maybe he wasn't able to commit to that to Offaly. But a successful year with an underage setup, especially in his home county, you'd imagine will provide the drug that he needs to say, right, this is probably something that I want to throw my whole lot in with over the next few years.
Talking to somebody yesterday about just the general ebb and flow of inter-county management, and one of the bits of advice that they had in the past was that one of the hardest parts is actually managing your backroom team, because they all are obviously demanding of your time and input, and so as the backroom team gets bigger and bigger, you have to talk to your S&C person, you need to talk to your medical team, you need to talk to your nutritionist, you need to make sure that they feel like they're being valued within the system, and then that has to cascade down to the players, and the players are like, well, where's my arc? It's the Jack O'Connor was making the point in one of the papers today. I don't know if it was an old interview, definitely was, but he was saying that he couldn't work full time and manage this job, or manage the management job, because you'd end up doing neither of them properly.
Yeah, I saw that as well, and it's kind of remarkable that John Kiley is a principal of a school and also managing one of the best modern setups we've seen. Like to try and balance those two things seems like a hell of a job. I think it also just means that when we look at the modern inter-county manager, the fact that it has moved away from being your stereotypical coach, I think part of that is just time management. You just don't have the time to think about how you're actually going to coach a team or the drills that you're going to be doing in training or whatever is involved. Your number one talent almost needs to be delegation at this point, and maybe that's what will give a lot of Mayo people hope when they look at the Kevin McStay setup, is that the people around him look pretty good, but McStay also seems like he's the right guy to sort of drive the ship. While he may be able to defer quite well to some of the coaches that he's got with him, he'll be the guy who'll be able to drive it quite well, just like Jim Gavin did, just like it seems Jack O'Connor did this year. Obviously the big decisions have to come down to the main man in charge, and if you can get those right, then that is the most important thing, like picking the team, the in-game decisions, and how your coaching staff around you delegates, or how you delegate to them, I should say, with regards to how they affect the team.
What's the word from the Kerry Mafia about Paddy Tally? Is he coming back? Do we know yet?
I don't know why. I don't think there's been many reports.
No, I haven't seen
Was he
anything.
asked on the football pod? I actually need to get around to listening to that.
I don't think they nailed him on it.
Yeah,
it was a more gentle chat than
but it doesn't need to be aggressive to ask him what is your plans for next year.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I listened to the whole thing and I can't actually remember. I would suggest they didn't, but
yeah, obviously the suggestion was a few weeks ago that the career break was a year-long one, and that was conducive to him being able to travel down to Kerry, and not having that availability now in his career is something that might end the whole thing. But I don't know. That's just a theory that's been out there. Again, success is a powerful enough drug that has he been there this year, and realised that he's crafted a very talented team into All Ireland winners. Surely that's something that keeps coming back.
Potential dynasty.
Well, that's the thing. If the age profile of the team was different.
Screw you, go on.
Yeah, if it was a different age profiled team, then he might think twice. Or if they'd won All Irelands beforehand, whereas this, it feels like there would still be enough of a hunger there next year for them to try and go back to back. I still maintain it's going to be very difficult for them to do so. But if they keep Tally on board, and if they get a little bit of the rubber green with fitness, that'll mean that they add a few new players to the mix, and there'll be a few new faces in that team next year. I think they could have a right crack off going back to back again. And if you're coaching that, nobody makes it to the top of the coach game unless they're unbelievably competitive, and that prospect of potentially winning the All Ireland again next year would be a big one, unless another county comes in for him. Obviously that would be one of the things that you might say could sway him. It's just something closer to home.
Yeah, for sure. One of the points that McStay was making, and I can't remember where it was yesterday, it could have been the Irish Times, about the strength and depth being one of the most important things for everybody next year, given the extra amount of games and the speed at which the round robin games are going to happen. Like the round robin, we still think, certainly the view that we've expressed on the show is that the system is a bit of a pig's Mickey, and it's going to end up having a bunch of games that eradicates almost nobody from the championship. But anyway, it's going to happen, and there'll be a load of games, and we like the games because that's the whole point. We want the games, but that the teams with the biggest strength and depth are going to benefit more from the speed at which those games come thick and fast next year. And so developing that bench is going to be far more important maybe than it had been in previous years.
Yeah, it's all important, and I think that's one of the reasons why I think Dublin under Jim Gavin in the early years started to do so well in the league. Obviously it's a really important staging post for them early in the season, but also they just had so many players of very high quality, and that meant that they were competitive year in, year out in a way that maybe Tyrone in the noughties or Kerry in the noughties possibly hadn't been. And I think that this Kerry team has probably followed that up as well. I think that they've been excellent in the league over the last few seasons. Granted, that's different because they felt that they were missing an All-Ireland medal, and they felt that they had to go hammer and tongs at the start of every single year, and also they didn't have a team holiday because they weren't making it to any successful level in the previous season. But I think it also speaks to the depth that they've had and some of the options that they've had, and when the injuries happen and when you've got players away playing for their colleges early in the league, they had 15 that was better than most other 15s going up against them. So I think think that it will benefit those two counties in particular next year. I think Kerry and Dublin will be in brilliant shape. I think when you get beyond that, I think you could have question marks of basically every other team. I think Tyrone, when they won the All Ireland last year, I think everybody spoke about it, but it was depth that won them that All Ireland, and then they lost it this year. It wasn't the only reason, but it was one of the big reasons why they fell off their perch this year. And I think every other county in that mix, you would have questions around their depth, and that's only natural. You can only have a certain amount of players of a quality. But even when it comes to like something like Mayo, Kevin McStay needs luck as opposed to hoping on a big squad. Like, it cost him this year. They were basically missing a full forward line, you could argue, compared to what it was in 2021. If you assume that Cillian O'Connor was just off form as well as everything else. So if he comes back, and obviously the two injuries and Donoghue and Conroy, then like that's the bit of luck that Kevin McStay needs first of all, as opposed to the depth that they might have for the lads coming off the bench.
You were obviously travelling on Monday, but we were talking with Dan about how good the situation is for the Republic of Ireland at the moment. The vast majority of their players are getting game time, with the obvious exception of Doherty and Coleman, but I think that they're going to get some significant game time over the next while, and hopefully get back in their respective teams as well. But Adam Ida came off the bench last night and scored for Norwich with maybe not his first touch, but very close to it. They ended up conceding a 90th minute equaliser to Bournemouth. The game went to penalties and Norwich went out, which is unfortunate because the more games there are for Norwich at this stage of the season, the better. I suspect he's going to get back in the team pretty quickly because Dean Smith doesn't. They do actually have significantly more attacking options now than they did last year, but he was playing so well for Smith last year for a period of time before his injury that presumably he's got some credit in the bank. But all of a sudden we have a load of players playing well and getting game time, and touch wood and whatever else we need to do. But like, this is relatively exciting. I mean, I'm trying not to get too carried away here by saying relatively exciting, but actually it's more than that.
Yeah, no, it is, to be fair. And like, I mean, the way the last campaign ended as well, like, I mean, obviously it started terribly, but it finished quite well. I think it probably gives you hope that things are going to get a little bit better given some of the players that Ireland were missing. So the question for Ireland is, where does Adam Ida play, and what is his role going to be for the Republic of Ireland? Because it's definitely felt to be when the chips were down or when Ireland weren't favoured to win a game, that's where Ida was at his best. Like tonight in Faro, I think he will do well to kind of top that over the next few months as a better performance for Ireland. And if he can combine that with maybe a couple of goals for Ireland, then I think he could become a guaranteed starter for Stephen Kenny. Like he kind of stumbled upon a nice enough attack without him. Like obviously Obafemi and Parrott was something that kind of swept us away for a period of time there. But Ida could almost play with any of those players and almost makes an easier combination with any of those players.
And now Ben is starting up front as opposed to on the right wing at club level.
And he didn't even have a good June window. Like I think we were probably worried about his form actually at the end of last season, and now he started brilliantly this season.
Yeah. So all of a sudden there are 4 strikers in the championship playing. Troy Parrott has to score in the league yet, but there's something there. There's at least like a little bit of depth, and if there is an injury to one or other of them, then there's another pair who are playing well.
Yeah, like I will say that like that's kind of one of the unfortunate things we're looking out for at the moment, is that there is a bit of an injury profile with some of these players as well, and Adam Ida is definitely one of those players that you're kind of taking it on a week by week basis, just hopefully that he can stay fit first of all, and then just hope that he can put some form together. Like Norwich obviously are going to be an interesting one from an Irish perspective always to watch over the course of this entire season, but it's good to see him back, good to see him scoring, and like that for me was just kind of the missing part of his performances for Ireland. Even when he's been excellent, he hasn't been scoring a lot of goals, but if you can add that to the game, and I saw the goal last night as well, it's just one of those bursts into the box, a scrappy finish where he just beats the defender to the tap in. Like that's the goal that you want. That's the Robbie Keane goal.
We need about 14 of those a season.
Yeah,
like that's the thing that turns him from a good striker who's like got all the physical attributes to somebody who's a fox in the box as well as everything else, and that will get you in the Premier League.
100%, and like it's that very simple looking thing which has been a massive challenge for Ireland for the best part of 6-7 years at this point.
Tennis Tank says the Kerry colours in the banner, it was obviously felt at home with the green and gold. Micheál O'Connor says exactly what I've always thought, there needs to be more Manchester United chat on OTB. I mean, there'll probably be less as time goes on, just naturally, because there's less to talk about if the team is well run and successful. Do you know, it's not like there isn't a new shit show this week for us to talk about.
You're saying you feast on negativity, is that what
No, I'm
you're
just saying that like there's going to be a lot of Liverpool talk over the next few days. Like, what the hell's going on there? How have all those great players suddenly lost form at the same time?
Yeah.
That's a bit weird.
Yeah, good stories do get boring after a while.
Yeah.
Or success gets boring because if a team is winning, they tend to win in a very similar way week after week.
When we were talking about the Dubs as they were racking up their 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, it was like, how do you beat them? It wasn't like, oh, look at the beautiful patterns of play. Wow, that kick-out strategy is amazing. Yeah,
I was marvelling in the kick-out strategies.
Yeah?
Yeah, every Monday morning.
Letting it wash over you.
Credit. Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, the thing with Manchester United is that they've not only managed to lose consistently, they had found ways to lose in a marvellous array of different ways, which made it fascinating.
That first half, last Saturday, is it only that far long ago? That was all-time great something or other.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen anything as shocking, really. Like, it was like the Brazil getting hammered in Brazil by Germany. It was that kind of like, this can't be real, can it? It's getting worse.
But doesn't it feel less real now? Like that, like we still need to remember that was like 11 days ago. That just doesn't arrest itself. That doesn't just disappear.
Well, Harry Maguire is not very good at football at the moment. He's completely devoid of any confidence.
What about David De Gea?
David De Gea, I would say, is not long for this world.
Yeah, Kevin Trapp will come in, be their starting goalkeeper.
Back page headline on the Irish Independent. Miguel Delaney's story. New keeper, top of United wish list in late spending spree. Get anybody in and get rid of De Gea. And so you then all of a sudden it's like, well, this is how we're going to play. It's a transformed team.
The interesting thing is that like De Gea was excellent the other night, and just not in the way that maybe Ten Hag wants him to be excellent.
Well, he was competent.
Yeah, he made a few good saves. I thought, okay, maybe excellent's a bit strong. Yeah, excellent off the Brentford base.
He's what you expect your goalkeeper to be able to do at Premier League level when he's the highest paid footballer in the Premier League over the last decade.
Okay.
Do you know what I
mean? Well, let me just run with excellent for a sec, because I think that's just not the type of goalkeeper that Ten Hag wants him to be, and it is the sort of goalkeeping performance you need to put in to beat Liverpool. The problem is you also need in your locker, in modern football and all that, an ability to be able to unpick Brentford at times, or not even unpick them, get out of your own half competently without screwing up all the time.
Like, I'm not saying Jordan Pickford is better, but at least Jordan Pickford has that through ball in his locker. So at some point in the game, you know, I don't really see that from.
So De Gea out Pickford in.
Yeah, exactly. 087 918 180 is the WhatsApp number. If you want to get in touch with us, we'd love to hear from you. We've one more. Do we have? Is there something? There is. Yeah, let's play this.
Or is it live?
Owen, as if life weren't tough enough. The news breaks. You're going. I suppose the big deal is if Ireland wasn't as unfortunate as the UK and coming out of the European Union, it means Interpol are still highly functioning in your country. And the news that you're going on the run, taking a sabbatical. The other thing I love about you is that the majority of people who go on the run don't advertise it. They just disappear overnight. But not you, no. Showman to the end. It does interest me the correlation between MTK boxing folding and your need to move on. Some of the lads have said you'll be back. Others have said you're founding an electronic musical festival in Bolivia. For my part, I'll be looking to see you hosting next year's draft in the NFL, Nashville or Waterford, wherever it may be. Meantime, good luck, and keep looking behind you. Stay safe, Owen.
Thank you very much, Graham Hunter. I like that. All of that, well, about 70% of that stuff is true.
Right, we're going to take a quick break. We're back talking Mayo football next.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Have you subscribed to the OTB Football Podcast?
When I was a nipper, I used to think that Daleks were the most evil creatures in the universe. I'd never heard of the Glazers then.
In Ole's team, he had to play as a number 10 because there was no one else really creating anything. So he was just like constant Hollywood passes. He did a lot of running about, but he was basically in the team to make goals happen.
If you think about the traditional front three, including Firmino, they were close to each other, and it just seems systematically right now Liverpool are not clicking.
Subscribe now to the OTB Football Podcast stream wherever you get your podcasts, and download the OTB Sports app.
If your business relies on a van, that wouldn't sound good, but this does. Get up to 75% off van insurance. Now available in FPD branches nationwide. FPD Insurance. Support. It's what we do. 75% no claims discount based on 5 years claims free. Available on new van policies used for farm or business purposes. Terms and conditions apply. Underwritten by FBD Insurance plc. FBD Insurance Group Limited, trading as FBD Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Griff says a music festival in Bolivia could be good fun.
I'm sure many exist, so my first aim is to just take down all the competitors and make mine the standalone one.
Have you plotted out some random music festivals along your trips?
I haven't plotted them out. I've seen that, a lot of the big brands have festivals going on, but apparently they're minus crack, I've heard.
In
everywhere, from in Chile and in Argentina. I'm talking about the Primaveras of this world,
right.
Your Lollapaloozas
right.
of this world.
Yeah.
Apparently they're just not good crack. I think they're
because they're too corporate.
A bit of that maybe, and also I think
bunch of tourists.
I think alcohol's banned in a lot of these.
Okay.
Not that I could absolutely have a good time, but no, you don't need.
We
that.
all know you don't.
That's just one of the many. It's just one of the many reasons. That's definitely not just the only reason I heard. And I was like, nah, screw that.
Ger reading far too much into Liverpool performance and getting very rugby fickle in inverted commas in his analysis, says Bruce Robbo Fan Club on YouTube.
What were you saying yesterday? I missed your Liverpool bit.
Well, just what I literally just I asked this morning, what's going on? How did the team who were so swashbuckling last year and full of good form end up with the team that we have at the moment, where it looks like nobody's playing particularly well, or people are playing well in individual patches? Midfield's not good enough. The sub centre back's not good enough. The first choice centre back not good enough in terms of his own form at the moment. Andy Robertson getting subbed off, not a usual thing. The strength and depth of the bench not very good. So it's not like it's one game in; it's 3 games in. So they've had their blip. And straight off the bat.
Yeah, Liverpool got a lot of credit as well for just winning the transfer market so many times over the last few years, that you would have thought that they'd have some sort of succession planning going on, or they would have at least war games how, what would happen when Thiago not if Thiago gets injured, when Thiago gets injured this season, because he gets injured a lot. What happens when Jordan Henderson is 1 year older, which was an absolute guarantee. What happens when James Milner is 1 year older, which was a guarantee. And maybe it feels like, this is completely in hindsight, by the way. This is totally speaking after them getting beaten at Old Trafford on Monday. But now maybe it becomes apparent that they didn't plan this transfer window as well as they possibly could have, because they've been left wanting in midfield in particular.
Their net spend is not very high, so there's still 7 days left for them to whip out the checkbook and sign some players and go, okay, we're going to make this huge investment now to try and bed in player X or Y.
Well, they've made money. No, sorry, they've just lost 5 million. Sorry, you've just got it open there as well. So that seems unusual. And obviously the thing was, at the start of the season, let's make up for the Sadio Mane departure by bringing in Darwin Nunez. And
one last point about this, right? So, when this came up in the office the other day, but we've covered the story in the past about how Liverpool are treating the local community in particular the streets around Anfield, where they bought up a load of houses and those houses have been boarded up, and what's the plan as they extend Liverpool Plaza onto those streets. All those stories have kind of disappeared because the club was being successful, but watch the club stop being successful for a season and watch everybody start going, how much did Fenway Sports Group actually spend on investing in players versus what other clubs have spent? They're held up as this paradigm of, we've got great American owners, as opposed to you who don't have great American owners. But what dictates whether or not an ownership is considered good or bad so far in history has been whether or not the team wins. Let's wait and see what happens if the team was to stop winning over the next while.
But we saw that 2 years ago. When they had their bad season during COVID, you often saw #FSG out trending. That is the automatic response for a lot of clubs. So
what we're saying is Liverpool and Manchester United are basically the same.
Every football club is the same. Guarantee you, if Arsenal lose every game in October, #Kroenke out will be trending. That is the automatic response to your football club not doing too well. Now, I may be misremembering this, but I do think that the Thiago signing was a brilliant bandage over any FSG out hashtag tendency you might have had the year before last, or last year when he was signed. So I think that signing maybe kind of was a sort of present from the owners, but I could just be making that up.
A reminder that Braeburn Coffee is the official coffee partner of OTB. Each week we're giving one lucky viewer a €100 voucher to spend on some Braeburn coffee goodness at an Apple Green store near you. To enter, check out @OffTheBall on Twitter. Like and retweet our Braeburn competition post and you'll be in the draw. Braeburn Coffee never compromises on quality or taste to give you the best on-the-go coffee experience on the road. It's available at Apple Green today. Now, it's 10 minutes past 8 here on OTB AM. I'm delighted to say Colm Boyle is with us to reflect on the new Mayo management team. Colm, we know who the Mayo management team is going to be, and not just in the short term, but they've handed out a long-term deal to Kevin McStay and his backroom team, which brings much needed stability to the situation, I suspect. What's the general consensus among the people who are chatting to you about it?
Thanks, lads. Yeah, a 4-year deal for Kevin. It's not hugely surprisingly that they went with 4 years. I think they gave the same to James and when he came back in for the second term. So yeah, wasn't obviously hugely surprised when I heard the news that it was Kevin. He put together a strong backroom team. It was obviously seen as probably his last opportunity really to get this job for himself. So he threw everything at it, rounded up some very good people and obviously came up against stiff opposition. So look, there was an awful lot of talk over the last couple of weeks as this has been building up in Mayo of who was going to get it. And, there was different, rumours going around. But obviously as things were developing on Monday, it looked like it was Kevin. And obviously it was confirmed on Monday night.
He, as you say, put together a really strong backroom team. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of that team and what they're actually going to be capable of, you'd have to say that the quality of teams put together was actually sensational. And any county in Ireland would be delighted to have such great, 3 different separate teams who all brought something very different to the table. There's been a lot of criticism of look at this process, I can't believe it's taken so long. But ultimately, any of those 3 teams, if they were in charge of an inter-county team, you'd be like, well, I've got to take this one seriously. I've got to respect this group.
Absolutely, yeah. There was serious quality, as you mentioned. I think that's one thing about the split season, especially when Mayo were out relatively early in it at a quarter-final stage, is that you don't have to rush into. It's not like you've only a couple of weeks to get this done or a month or whatever. You can take a bit of time in it. Probably would have been a bit longer than what a lot of people would have liked, but look, it's done now. It took 3 months. They would have the county board, I'm sure, feel like they've done the right thing. They've gone through the right process. They've done the interviews. I'm not sure when's the last time 4 people interviewed for a Mayo job, if ever. They probably did a few years ago, but yeah, 4 really strong candidates. And look, I think the county board would probably feel like they've got the right man for the job.
And that number of candidates speaks to how attractive this job very much still is. Is that surprising at all to you, Colm, that the people are still very much unbelievably interested in this job? It says to me that this team hasn't come off their peak just yet at all, that they're still very much right there and there's a capability to win an All-Ireland next year with this team.
100% on. I don't think Kevin McStay would be taking this job at this stage of his life and his career if he didn't believe there was a chance there to win the All-Ireland, or that Mayo could win the All-Ireland. And I'd say the same for Stephen Rochford coming back in there with them, and Donny Buckley as well, and obviously Lee McHale. Them boys I think have a firm belief that there's a panel there, a squad there with the capabilities of doing something. And they're also probably looking at the landscape of what's out there at the minute, and obviously Kerry being All-Ireland champions, obviously a really, really good team. But outside of that, there's an awful lot of teams around the same level, and I think Mayo are one of them. And even if you're looking at the likes of Galway last year, coming from the middle of the pack and being within 5 minutes of winning the All-Ireland, I think Mayo will be right in the mix next year, along with the number of teams that will be pushing for the last stages of All-Ireland. And I think the lads there will feel, if they get a lot of things right, obviously there's a lot of things that need to work on and need to improve on, but if they get an awful lot of things right, that they're going to be thereabouts.
Colm, how important was Stephen Rochford's decision to throw his lot in with this group in terms of winning over the Mayo public, and also I guess we don't know the ins and outs of the selection committee, what their decision process was, but because he seems like a well-got character. People have a lot of time for what he'd done at club level and then at inter-county level. I think, it's it's possible that his team was the closest to winning an All-Ireland, and for him not to go on his own, but to actually say, right, I'm going to be part of this group, that seems to have added a lot of heft to their candidacy.
Yeah, I think it was a great move by Kevin, to be honest, to pick up the phone and get Stephen Rochford on board, and obviously go in and get Donny Buckley as well. I think, Kevin, or both them fellas had the huge time for Mayo football and what they've done for them in the past. Obviously, there will be a few lads there that have still worked for them that will have a great time for them as well. So I think that's a very positive move by Kevin to get them two boys in there, and they have the great experience as well. And they even with that, they will add a bit of freshness and new ideas and going forward. It will be interesting to see. The last couple of years with Mayo, we've kind of gone down the route of running an awful lot of ball and going through the hands. It'll be very interesting to see with Kevin now and knowing Stephen and Donny, they like to move the ball really, really quickly and through the foot as much as possible. So I think you could see a different style in Mayo's play certainly next year, and over the next couple of years, of maybe moving the ball a small bit quicker and certainly by foot.
That's interesting, because you obviously would have played under Rochford as well. And was there a significant difference between how Rochford would have approached things versus, say, James?
Yeah, well, I've mentioned this before. I think Stephen was very big on moving the ball as quickly as possible by foot. I think James, over the last couple of years, especially when Dublin were kind of in their pomp when he came in 19, he kind of, and especially when they bet us in the semi-final, he nearly, I think, made the decision that he needs to get more athletes in the team, more runners into the team to be able to compete with them for 70, 80 minutes. And that's kind of what you saw happening over the next couple of years with Mayo, and our style of play kind of was built around that. I think obviously we still have will have them powerful runners, absolutely, but I think what you'll see with that is us moving the ball a small bit quicker. I think it'd be interesting with Kevin, because obviously through the media work over the last couple of years, and I know from doing a few podcasts with them for the Mayo News last year, he's a really big fan of Aidan O'Shea at full forward and developing the game plan around that. And I know people have said that's been done in the past, but he's been very adamant about that over the last couple of years. So I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to look out for, to see does he try and actually develop a game plan around Aidan at full forward and use him as a kind of focal point of the attack.
Is it possible that extends Aidan O'Shea's career significantly for a couple of years even? Like, I don't know what you'd know much better about the wear and tear and the actual whether or not running that distance matters in terms of your ability to keep going, but just instinctively it would seem like you might be able to have a couple of years extra at the end of your career if you were to move inside.
Oh, hugely, yeah. And it's almost a natural progression for a big man for Aidan, and especially around the skill set that he has. But yeah, it definitely would. And especially the athletes that's out there now around the middle of the pitch. You're trying to avoid getting paired off with them as much as possible as you're moving on in age, and certainly when you're a man the size of Aidan's size. But yeah, I think it's something that definitely can be worked on, and something we can definitely get better at, not just as Aidan in there, but as a full group of how we use them. If it turns out that's what they decide to do, or look, it might be certain case that they do it in certain games or whatnot. But it's definitely something that I feel it'll be interesting to see does Kevin try and deploy.
What will Donny Buckley bring to bear as a coach? What are his skill sets and strengths?
He'll bring loads of energy anyway. He's obviously very active. He's very good, and he's defending, and he's tackling. He's big into the one-on-one tackling and group tackling as well, and getting your technique right and trying to force turnovers, which we were good at over the years, and getting quick counterattacks from that. And like I said, moving the ball really, really quickly by foot then if you can from that. So like Donny will add to that hugely. I think what everyone is kind of wondering in Mayo, Kevin and McStay has got three really strong coaches there, and Stephen Rochford, Donny Buckley and Lee McHale, three boys that I'd say would like to be really, really hands-on. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see, if we ever know who's doing what or what role each is taken in training sessions, or is one more forwards coach or a backs coach or how they're lining up. But that's going to be really, really interesting to see going forward.
What was the Rochford Buckley dynamic like when you played under the two of them?
Yeah, they're smart fellas. What they do, what I did like about them, really, really, I liked a lot of things about them, but they're willing to try different things. So like over the years, there was a couple of games where they played the likes of Lee Keegan midfield against Roscommon. I remember in a quarter final in 17. and he kicked 1-3 from midfield to put him on a man marking job and into Smith, and different things like even Aidan O'Shea famously playing full back against Kieran Donnelly. They played Kevin McLaughlin very successfully as a sweeper in 16. Like, they will try different things and have different ideas, and even based around the opposition that we're playing, they will change things up based on what teams are playing on any given week. So yeah, they'll bring huge ideas in that regard, and definitely won't be afraid to try different things. There's no doubt about it.
And what's the word then on McStay and McHale's approach to the game? Obviously, you've mentioned the McStay saying that he'd be a fan of Aidan O'Shea potentially in at 14, but with the two of them together in terms of like their tactical approach, maybe at club level, and obviously with the Rossies, what have you seen, and how will that mix, or how will it not mix potentially with the likes of what Rochford wants to bring to the table?
I think it'll mix fairly well. I would say they would have a lot of similar philosophies of how they want to play. And now, now they're with a team like Mayo, they might have the players, or more of the players that they'd like to play a really attacking style of game. I think that will be Kevin's natural instinct. But obviously, you need to get it right at the back first. You saw it with Kerry, obviously this year. They're the best example you can use with getting things right at the back and building your platform from there, and in the likes of Ty Morley at centre back. So there's a number of things I think Kevin will be looking to nail down straight away. Obviously, getting on to the couple of the older boys, making sure they're nailed down and ready to go for next year. And if they are, like we've already mentioned, Aidan there, the likes of a Lee, I think going forward, it'll be interesting to see how they use him if he is back there next year. At this stage of his career, does he need to be doing man marking jobs? And from a cornerback position, I'd love to see him up the field now and maybe playing from a half forward position, similar role maybe to what Johnny Heaney played for Galway this year, where he's getting back, helping his half back line when you're defending, but when you're attacking, then he's playing more of a free role and just getting forward and helping out the attack as much as possible. I think that'd be interesting to see how they use the likes of him amongst others. But look, you'd be hoping from a Mayo point of view that they'd be able to build a bigger squad. I think Kevin has already mentioned this in an interview he's done with the structure, what's coming next year, the 3 extra games if you get to a quarter-final. Just to get to a quarter-final, you're going to need that squad. And, I suppose it's good time. And now Mayo Club Championship is starting, not this weekend, but the following weekend. So I think them boys will be out and about and really trying to get boys in over the winter months to try and develop them on for the National League to get a proper look at them for next year.
This is McStay's third bite of the cherry in terms of trying to get the manager's job. He's been successful this time. Does that speak to maybe a wider change in Mayo GAA, that first of all he's been happy enough to give it another crack to go back for the manager's job, and second of all that he's actually been successful and he's got the gig?
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think he'd be going at this now if at this stage for him if he didn't think there was a real chance of doing something with Mayo. So yeah, look, I think that maybe it was just now it was the perfect opportunity for him. And it just might all come together nicely. Obviously, he's waited for this a lot longer than he would have wished for him, I'm sure. But look, now he's there. Now the opportunity is there for him. I'm sure he's going to do absolutely everything he can to try and progress Mayo football and be as competitive as he can over the next 3 or 4 years.
It kind of felt like the last period had come to its natural conclusion, and felt a little bit like even the Mayo supporters, which we thought had this kind of endless ability to keep bouncing back from setbacks, had become a little bit exhausted by that whole process. Is this the re-energising of the fan base as much as anything as well? That you bring this kind of legendary Magnificent Seven style band back together, and everybody's up for it and delighted that this has happened. Is that from the outside that would seem to be the atmosphere?
Yeah, I think you're right, Ger. And because we've been out of the championship so long, it feels like 6 months ago since Mayo played in the championship, honestly. And to get this bit of news now as a Mayo supporter, there is a bit of excitement definitely back in the county again. And I think everyone's going to be looking forward now, as I've already mentioned, to the club championship starting, really kicking off to seeing right who's in form and who could maybe add something to this Mayo team next year, or this Mayo squad next year. So I think definitely, there's a bit of a buzz. And when things kick off next year, I think you'll see the crowds back again, flocking to the league games and looking to see how Mayo are progressing, or what changes have been made from a management point of view and from a style of play, I suppose, and looking to develop things on them for the championship.
Are there many other people who might be capable of playing inter-county football who haven't been in that squad over the last couple of years, or is it actually better luck with injuries and improving the current stock? Is that the most likely outcome, or do you think there are some new faces who'll come through, and not just the younger players that maybe who have been overlooked for whatever reason in previous regimes?
Yeah, there probably would be a few. Obviously, you mentioned injuries there. That's the key thing for Mayo, is getting these boys right. Like, as far as I know, Tommy Conroy, Ryan O'Donoghue haven't lined up with their clubs yet this year. So obviously they're taking their time with the injuries, and I think that's the right thing to do at their stage of the careers. Just get these major injuries that they have right, and get fresh for next year, or maybe play a bit of club football towards the end of the year. And then there's a couple other lads, like I've mentioned David McBreen before. He's a full back with huge potential, but he's had really, really bad luck with injuries. He's probably 22, 23 years of age. He's a monster of a man, and if we can just get him back, I think he'd be a huge addition to the Mayo full back line next year. And like I said, he would free up the likes of a Lee to get out of there and play a more freer role up the pitch, definitely, if that's something they wanted to do. Then you have the likes of maybe Mark Moran, who, you know, burst onto the scene a couple of years ago, and he's been really, really unlucky with injuries as well. As far as I know, he's back playing with the club now as well. So the likes of him as well. Fergal Boland has been a really kind of brilliant club player for Mayo over the years. Kind of unlucky not to get more game time for Mayo over the last couple of years. So look, he'd be looking to push on as well. But there's loads of boys in the same boat, and lads outside the squad now looking to push in. I'm sure this is your opportunity now if you want to make impression. If you're 20, 21, 22 years of age, these boys coming in for the next couple of years, now is your time with club championship coming up to make an impression on them.
It does sound like your instinct is that those older players we've spoken about will come back, just out of curiosity to see what might happen, and also because maybe they'll be managed in a way that gets the best out of them.
Yeah, well, I'm in hope as much as anything else. Obviously, there's a few more boys as well, like Kevin McLaughlin and Jason Doherty, and I'm not sure obviously what them boys are doing. But look, at you, as Mayo supporters, you'd be hoping that the likes of Lee and Aidan, you know, would certainly back and give it another go. And this might be exactly what they just need, you know, a new management team coming in, and obviously guys there that they've worked with before that they know and trust, and as you said, lads that will look after them in certain aspects, and, you know, maybe free them up a small bit more from their roles that they might have been doing the last couple of years, and it just might give them a bit of a kick on to get really big performances out of them in 2023.
Like, I'm hearing Mayo for Sam here, Colm. I mean, this is the level of excitement.
Don't trust him.
No, we won't go to that extent just yet, Owen, but no, look at. You just never know. You never know. I do think we'll be contender next year. And even look at, I'd say the lads looking at Galway getting to the final this year, that might give them a bit of an impetus now to kick on and really go for it next year. So yeah, you never know.
You see the style of play question that you're talking about there, the athletes that James had. Like, it's incredible to watch when it's working really well. And I guess maybe other teams have found a way to stop it being completely effective, particularly by blocking up the channel to the goals.
Yes.
So what you want is them to be able to do that at certain times during the game, but then also to have in their locker the ability to, you know, kick long balls in, and if that's to win marks or if that's for someone to feed off the big man inside. So it's just about being changeable and unpredictable for the opposition, is it?
100%, and even getting our scores a small bit more freely. Like, often when you watch us, our scores tend to be very hard work, or they tend to be scores from out around the 45, or it's half backs or midfielders or half forwards kicking long range scores. You know, for me, we don't get enough scores where we're getting boys on the loop, or we're getting boys on backdoor cuts, or, you know, the scores that seem to come so easily to the likes of a Kerry or a Dublin. You know, I think there's way more we can do in that regards in our forwards movement and getting our best shooters on the ball in the right positions. I think there's loads of different aspects we can improve on. And then, you know, we always going to have the athletes on top of that, and our strike runners come from deep. I think that's a huge part of our game, and it's something that we've a huge that teams fear when they play Mayo. But like I said, we need more than that, definitely, if you're going to push on, if you're going to be trying to win the All-Ireland.
Yeah. All right, Colm, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Thanks a million, lads.
It's good that everybody has a sense of excitement around this time of year, and it's good that Mayo have finally made this decision.
Yeah, like, I think that because of the nature of the season, there's probably been more of a silly season than ever. It doesn't help, obviously, when you wait like 50 to 60 days to actually appoint your manager. You kind of feed into that. But he does make a good point. Like, the championship isn't even starting until next week in Mayo. They haven't exactly missed the boat completely, and also they wanted to do things thoroughly and right. And there was 4 star-studded enough teams going head to head here.
There aren't that many other counties that have such a strong public social media I don't know how to talk about this, but like
a tribe.
There's like but also there's a particularly strong element within Mayo that enjoys tearing Mayo down from the inside or the outside, from hurling on the ditch. Not many other counties have that, and it seems to. I don't know. Maybe we pay too much attention to it. Maybe if you just delete social media when you're thinking about Mayo football and what the future is going to be, that's the thing to do. I don't know.
I think it's that's like a very magnified Irish thing, though, isn't it? Like tearing things down from the inside. I think we possibly all experience that in every area of Ireland, but it's just particularly magnified, I think, when it comes to Mayo for whatever reason. I think it's possibly to do with the very curious level of success that they've had on the pitch, where they feel that they should have had an All-Ireland by now, and obviously they haven't.
Well, the worst successes of the Peter Keane era didn't seem to be in Kerry, didn't seem to be as bad as the worst successes of the Mayo era, even though both counties felt like they should have been winning All-Irelands. Maybe I'm wrong about that, because you would have been more intimately familiar with how bad things got in Kerry.
Possibly.
Mayo feels worse than everyone. When it's going bad, it feels worse.
Yeah, like it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, no, it's probably hard to make a case that anywhere has kind of like more of an overreaction to All Ireland exits than Mayo. To be fair, Kerry's pretty bad as well, though. Like, and I think you could show maybe the Cork hurlers in with that as well. Like, I think that they're maybe like the holy trinity of inside. Of animals, basically. I mean, because I'm throwing myself in there as well. You know, we can so I can say it, right. So, like, if Paddy O'Shea was to come back and give us his top three worst shower of effing animals,
he'd power rank them.
Who else would be up with the Kerry football fans? It could well be Mayo and Cork at it. It feels to me that they're like the very glamorous jobs that come up, and by glamorous I mean like a lot of speculation, a lot of talk about who should take the job, and quite often the whole stories are quite dramatic when it comes to appointing a boss.
Yeah. All right, 8:31 OTB AM, brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. It is before we get to the papers, I just want to tell you about this. We need your help. We're currently recruiting for a survey. If you listen to us across any platform at least a couple of times a week, then we'd like to ask you some questions. You can sign up on Twitter, check out our pinned tweet, or if you're an Instagram user, check out our saved stories. We're also posting this across TikTok and Facebook. Failing that, you can WhatsApp us on 0879 180 180 and we'll send it out to you. There are 3 separate prizes of €100 up for grabs for anyone who takes part, and we were all a bit red-faced in that photograph. Right, time for the papers.
There are so many idiots out there, so many spoofers. There's a lot of horse.
I think he's a total spoofer.
What do you mean a spoofer?
He's just bullshit.
No, Eamon, come on, don't be, no, I'm not, yes. No.
Back page of the Irish Independent this morning. New keeper at top of United wish list in late spending spree, and they also have a picture of Adam Ida's scrappy finish last night. Ultimately not good enough for Norwich to go through in the Carabao Cup, but it doesn't really matter. O'Shea confirmed as Kerry's new under-20 manager. That's the story there. The Irish Times has the reasons Liverpool have made their worst start to a season under Klopp: midfield toils, injuries, poor starts, dissent, and missing Sadio Mane. Van Nistelrooy hopes rest can give PSV edge over Rangers. That second leg is tonight. Chelsea have bid €83 million for Wesley Fofana. It's been rejected. So they're going to keep going, I think. It's going to end up being the new Harry Maguire. It's going to pay the money that Leicester wants. That's what's going to happen. Varane hails team spirit of United, as you were talking about a little bit earlier on. Picture Joe Schmidt. Is this Irish rugby's nightmare? Is this it come to reality? Joe Schmidt in his All Blacks gear.
It feels like that works, doesn't it? It doesn't look too sort of strange to see him in the All Blacks setup. I think that kind of works for him. It was his plan all along.
The back page of The Guardian. We've had too much fun for tears. Scott ends playing days. This is Jill Scott announcing her retirement from football. Great courage. Root praises Stokes for opening up on mental health. This is Joe Root talking about Ben Stokes' courage and dealing so frankly with his off-pitch issues. In a new Amazon documentary. Everybody's got an Amazon documentary. Are you going to make one when you're actually in the Amazon? Is that your plan?
Yeah, 100%. That's the ambition.
Gordon, I want Chelsea move. Anthony Gordon has told the Everton manager Frank Lampard he wants to join Chelsea as the two clubs hold talks over a $60 million deal. Maybe Anthony Gordon is way better than all of those other players they have who play in the same position at Chelsea. Maybe he's like so markedly superior to that gelatinous gloop of midfielders / forwards.
And I think Everton are chancing their arm now and who wants a bit of a swap, don't they? Give us Conor Gallagher and we'll give you Gordon. And I'm like, for the short term, I think Everton almost win that trade.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I'll have him back on a, we'll give you a buyback clause if you want for 120 million.
Yeah, I don't think Chelsea are going to let him go on a permanent, but it could be something that maybe Everton massage to work for them over the course of this season. But yeah, it does seem extraordinary money for Gordon. Like, chances are he comes through this season and has an amazing year, and all of a sudden we're like, that makes sense. But would he not be better off? Like, Chelsea would almost be better off buying Gordon and loaning him back to Everton straight away.
Axe Maguire will fight for his future. Ditch United skipper won't push for move is the headline on the back of the Mail. And then there's another one here saying captain hooked suitor's circle as Axe Maguire faces up to limited game time. So that's in the start. And there's a picture of David Clifford. How did I miss this? Clifford, different class. David Clifford holding a football in cap and gown, graduating from his Masters in PE. He's going to become a PE teacher after receiving his Masters in PE teaching.
I was there.
At UL?
Yeah, just I was, cheering David Clifford on as he received, I'm that much of a super fan. No, my sister was graduating, so I was there. But yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Where's the photographs? Is your Instagram feed lit with pictures of you and Clifford?
It's no, I didn't put them up on Instagram.
Could you not have tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, listen, the lads are doing a going away montage of videos for me. Could you do one?
Could you do one for me, please?" Sorry, what's your name?
That would have been amazing. Right, at 8:36 this morning. We didn't think we could embarrass him anymore, but we've got there. John Duggan, good morning to you. How are you?
Ger and Eoin, keep well.
John, what's going on? Has a penny dropped? Has something happened?
With?
How was your golf tipping last week?
Another headline tip winner, 16-1. Patrick Cantlay.
Back to back.
25-1 winner, then 16-1 winner. So you just have to stick with the process. And there was so many days in the summer when I was writing down every single week the tally, and it would generally be in the lost column, and it was a painful thing to do every week. But I just knew that I would turn. Because these things go in waves, and if you believe in what you're doing, if you're putting a lot of work in, doing a long time. So thankfully it did work out.
That's pretty amazing.
Well, what's the overall picture for the year?
22% profit.
Nice.
It's going to be guaranteed profit. Last year, 46.5% profit, and 22% profit with about 8 or 9 weeks to go. So yeah, Patrick Cantlay, who I've got a lot of stick for tipping over the last couple of years, but yeah, we did a job in the BMW Championship, and it was kind of funny because I'd been watching it for 4 hours, and then the TV went on the blink at the moment he was about to hold the winning putt.
Oh no!
So, I was in a bit of a rage, but the rage was subsiding quickly when
the news came through.
The news came through on the app. So yeah, just grateful to be able to get in front.
Excellent. So back to back, just as Owen clambered off the bandwagon,
last week did you?
No, I stopped early in the year. I had my Ryan Brem moment.
Well, you're saving for South America, so.
Yeah, that would obviously help the savings if I had.
Well, I suppose there's more guarantee in you saving money than me telling you should do this, and then it doesn't work out, and then you got resentment towards me for 6 months.
I could just blame you then,
yeah,
just for not having any cash.
No, that's not how it works. We do not encourage that.
No.
Sorry, yes, no, that was a joke. Definitely.
Yeah.
John, what's going on?
Well, the Springboks coming to Porky Queeve on Thursday, November the 10th. This will be rubber stamped by the GAA. The Ord Corla will have to sign off at the Central Council, but yeah, it's going to happen. And obviously the Springboks play Ireland the previous Saturday. 45,000 seater. Cork GAA need the money because of all the debt on Porky Queeve. Munster Rugby fans would like to see a match of full capacity, so I think this is going to happen. Obviously there's a precedent of the Liam Miller tribute game in 2018. That's happening. Adamida, another Cork figure on the score sheet last night in the Carabao Cup, as were Ronan Curtis and Dara Burns for MK Dons. All the teams you'd expect to win did win, but Fulham did lose to Crawley Town. Wesley Fofana didn't play for Leicester. It's funny, I was looking through the odds yesterday. Speaking about odds, Brendan Rodgers is 1-2 to be the first manager sacked.
He's the favourite now, yeah?
Yeah, 1-2 clear favourite. Doesn't seem to be a happy camp. No signings coming in. You'd wonder, has the Leicester, fairy tale beginning to sour a bit.
I saw somewhere it was blaming financial fair play for their inability to sign anybody at the moment until they get Fofana out, and then if Fofana does get sold, they'll only reinvest 50% of the transfer fee.
Maybe Tielemans will go as well. He was on the bench at the weekend. We have PSV Eindhoven Rangers this evening, 2-2 from the first leg of that Champions League playoff. Leeds facing Barnsley, Newcastle going to Tranmere, Brighton away to Forest Green Rovers in the Carabao Cup this evening. Sam Bennett leading the green points, green jersey standings for the Tour of Spain, which Primož Roglic leads the the red jersey rather. France is yellow, Spain is red. So Bennett with a 9-point lead for the green jersey over Mads Pedersen. And interesting from a United Liverpool perspective, the UK Independent Miguel Delaney reporting today that Erik ten Hag is interested in a goalkeeper as backup to David De Gea. Kevin Trapp of Eintracht Frankfurt, Jan Sommer of Borussia Mönchengladbach, Anthony as well seems to want to go to United, is training on his own, just a case of agreeing the fee. I watched the match last night because I was catching up on a lot of things, a lot of soccer, because I did all my soccer yesterday. But I wonder, should Liverpool play three at the back? Because Mane's left, Alexander-Arnold, there's obviously issues with his defending and players getting in behind him. Van Dijk, you'd wonder, would he want the company there at the moment with another defender, the way he's playing? And their midfield might need a bit of strengthening in the middle. So if these guys are really wing backs in the attacking part of the team, maybe they should be pressing further forward, That was my kind of thought process. The second thing I thought was, as you said yesterday in the show, Ger, like the players that everybody was talking about in the summer in terms of rowing or battling for supremacy in the dressing room, Ronaldo and Maguire were both dropped, and it was obviously the right thing to do. With the energy and the verve that Elanga and Sancho and Rashford and Fernandes showed. You could see Eriksen sitting beside Casemiro. And you can see that Malacia, and I don't know how he'll play against bigger players, but Martinez had a bit of dog in him, So Ten Hag turned that around pretty quickly in 7 days. Now, the next thing is, can they respond at Southampton on Saturday? But there's definitely interesting, I suppose, tactical analysis of United and Liverpool rather than stuff off the pitch, which is kind of a good way to be talking about them.
You go 3-4-3 or 3-5-2 if you were Klopp?
I'd probably go 3-5-2.
So Salah and Nunez up front, is it? Or Salah Diaz?
Yeah. Salah Nunez maybe.
You're talking short term, very immediate short term, are you? Just to get them out of this blip? Or
I just think the Liverpool midfield isn't good enough, and I do think there's a freshness issue with Liverpool. I know they've got so many injuries, like when Jota and Konate and when Thiago and when all the Curtis Jones, when all these players come back in, maybe it'll be just back to the way it was. But I just kind of feel, and I said this before the start of the season, that Liverpool, they've been on the road a long time. James Milner, Jordan Henderson, they got to 2 cups, won those cups, and they got to the last day of the Champions League and the league. But I'm just remember the Champions League final, Alexander-Arnold, who's an amazing player going forward, was caught for that goal. And then you just wonder, they're already, 7 points off Arsenal, who are probably the fake leaders, but they're 5 points off City. But you'd have to think the way Arsenal have started with such cohesion, with the way City have started with Haaland, Liverpool can't be afford to be that far behind, I don't think.
We didn't talk about Arsenal because you weren't here on Monday. Wait, what's that annoyed laugh?
I mean, you can talk about Arsenal if I'm not here. You have my permission.
With you. We did obviously talk about it. The world exists when you weren't here.
I thought you just said we didn't talk about Arsenal.
You and me, the royal we here, buddy.
I apologize. I should have listened to the show.
I mean, maybe. Too much to ask, obviously. Jesus.
It was on your day off.
It was travelling.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was working.
Yeah. Anyway, Gabriel Jesus, he's pretty good at football.
Oh yes,
shocker.
At the
I'm surprised at how good
Merchant.
He is. I am surprised at how all of the things he's capable of doing. He's.
Does that say something about the City straitjacket under Pep?
But to be honest, John, what I said to me was that City are even better than we think. That they could just casually toss aside Gabriel Jesus and Alexander Zinchenko, and in the first half on Saturday, they both like Arsenal's best players. Like Saliba, obviously, the third newish player you could throw into the mix this season. He's gone straight into the starting 11, looks outstanding. And I know the goal comes in the second half, but in the first half, he just has that Van Dijk ability to be like, ball over the top, a little bit of a mistake midfield, no problem. I've got the pace to catch up with anybody. Be a little bit concerned about Ben White at right back, just because he's not a right back. he's absolutely good enough to kind of hold on to his position for now until maybe Tomiyasu gets tried there and nails that position down. That's just the one little issue I might pick out at the moment with them. But they're playing really well. They've played nobody though. You call them fake leaders. Winning in Crystal Palace in the first day of the season was an excellent result. But playing Fulham this weekend is actually their second toughest fixture of the season so far. So it goes to show how forgiving the run has been.
Yeah, okay, and that's fair enough. But it's the level of confidence they're playing at, and it's the fact that Odegaard is living up to that incredible hype that he had when he was a 14-year-old, and it looks like the process is good.
The injuries, like when they get injuries, I think that'll be the real test of them.
But they're hoping to sign a few more players to hopefully cope with that, and I really just think you've got to buckle up for what could be a tough enough October, because the Premier League fixtures are extremely tough. They play all of the top four between the start of October and maybe a week into November, and then you throw the Europa League into it, and that'll start to pile the bodies up. It was interesting, like, just so you're trying to get a little bit of an insight into what he sees the pecking order as at the moment, or how he might shuffle the deck for that month. Like, he brought Ger and Eoin on Saturday, but he kept Zinchenko on the pitch, so he had Tierney playing ahead of him for those few minutes. So I'd say we're going to see maybe like a few out of position nuances over the next few weeks. Just hopefully not Granit Xhaka at left back and all of it.
It's funny that Smith Rowe hasn't been getting a look into the team.
Yeah, now to be fair, last year that did start happening, where Martinelli had that position on the left hand side locked down, and Odegaard is going to be your number 10. So I think maybe Smith Rowe is a little bit out of position on the left, so he's not going to get ahead of Odegaard, his club captain now. And I think Martinelli was outstanding, I thought, as well on Saturday.
What if Jesus gets injured? Well,
that's the issue.
Eddie Nketiah, is
yeah, now Eddie Nketiah got a nice contract at the start of the window before the Jesus deal was done. I think something around 100 grand a week. So that is a deal that suggested to me that they were willing to trust him as a starting attacker maybe for some of the games. He's more than likely going to be Arsenal's 9 for the Europa League. And to be fair, he had a couple of glimmers of good form at the end of last season, but when it really mattered, the night against Tottenham, when Arsenal badly needed a result after that as well, the following Monday night, he was poor. So I'd be a little bit concerned if Jesus gets injured for sure.
All right, 8:46 this morning. OTB AM Sports Live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish your day. John, one last thing. You were on your travels.
Oh yes, yeah. On Monday I went to Bale na Bláth, on the 100th anniversary to the day of Michael Collins' death. So it was interesting. I got a train down, got a bus to Crookstown, and then I walked to Bale na Bláth about an hour. And it is really, really remote. It is the middle of nowhere. It is quite like you're just trying to imagine it 100 years ago. Even when I walked up to the memorial, there's about 100 people there at a time. I walked past it. I walked for about another half an hour, and you can't hear a pin drop. I'm just kind of imagining it 100 years ago. So, look, I'm not of a political persuasion in terms of any party or that, but I'm big into history, and it was an interesting thing to do 100 years to the day. I mean, I can't think of anything bigger, really, apart from the Easter Rising and maybe the signing of the treaty that was the death of Michael Collins. Read the book, actually, Tim Pat-Coogan's book in the preceding days, so caught up on all my football yesterday. But I went into the Diamond Bar, which was Long's, where the ambush was planned, and went and had a pint with a couple of the locals and got chatting to them. And it's funny, I was speaking to the guy behind the bar. They would not speak of Collins for his grandfather, his father. They would not speak of Collins because they're anti-treaty pub. But in the bar, there's a picture of Michael Collins in the bar. So obviously all has passed in terms of reconciliation.
Finally, we can
on a dartboard.
No, it's much more reverential. It's quite a beautiful picture of Michael. But the great thing about Irish people, and that's why I love living in this country, is our unique, like, to be able to go into a bar anywhere in this, or whether you're having a cup of tea or a pint, and just chat to the locals, and they ended up giving you a lift back in, Billy and Eileen. So that was very nice of them, and the kindness that they showed. So it's just it's just a fascinating period of our history. I watched The Treaty in the last few days, which is a very good film, apart from I think it's much better than Michael Collins, the epic one that was sold for the American market. The Treaty is very, very good. Brendan Gleeson is Michael Collins in it.
It's a series, is it, or is it a movie?
No, it's a movie.
Right.
It's about an hour and a half. Really, really good. Barry McGovern as Dev, So it is a fascinating period to think about. 100 years ago, we were involved in a bitter civil war in this country between brother against brother, family against family, and took a long time for it to heal. That actually happened. It went on for 11 months, and there was a lot of reprisals on both sides. But 31 years of age, you're going to London, you're meeting Churchill, you're meeting Lloyd George, you're signing the treaty. You're cut down at 31 years of age. Whatever people think of him and his methods, he was a significant person in our history, and it was just an interesting thing to do. So I was glad I did it.
What's the pub like? Is it?
It's it's a real classic country pub that does a great pint of Guinness, and that's what I love about this country. You can just go in anywhere and have a chat with somebody and get their stories. Like a lot of Northern Reg cars. Guy was down from Tyrone for the day, was driving back to Tyrone. You end up talking about like Mickey Hart and Ergo Kieran and the club he was with, and that's what it's all about. That's what being Irish is about, just that natural warmth that we have, and that's why I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
8:49 this morning, John. Thanks very much for that. More from John, of course, on Saturday afternoon. We'll have this week's Virtual Insanity instalment along as well on tomorrow's show. OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. If anybody wants to get in touch this morning, 087 9180 180 is the WhatsApp number, or of course you can leave a comment on the YouTube stream as well. Was it a big night out in Limerick then last night? Is that where you didn't?
No. Yeah, straight back up the road afterwards. Yeah, flew in from Manchester, went down there, and then got back up. Yeah, so I'm not sure about David Clifford now. I mean, I don't like. I'm not sure what he got up to last night. You've painted a picture of a stalker earlier on, and now I can't. I can't get that out. Okay. Trying to say things that don't paint me as such.
Well, it's too late for that. I don't think you would have been a stalker. You would have just been like, and what was the David Beckham and associated fans?
What was poor Robbie Keane.
Gordon will end up like Ross Barkley, Scott Parker, Gilmore, etc. at Chelsea. Chelsea is always a graveyard for young talent, says Paul Quirk. They're obviously trying to change that, and maybe they think they're going to be able to somehow boost his value and sell him on. Jack McGarvey says, I'm expecting Sancho's performance to be in Owen's You Had to Be There before Owen's retirement on Friday. Your retirement's next Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Are you doing it? You had to be there before you retire?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Also, I can't possibly do Sancho. Remember, I literally wasn't there. I couldn't get into the stadium for Sancho's goal. I was locked out behind the barriers. Like, you really did have to be there, and I wasn't there.
Very unfortunate. Was there no sense of anger about the fact that the game is on, the crowd is cheering from, like, not just you, but obviously the other people who were with you?
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here. Like, Andy Mitten was one of the people who was locked out as well. And, like, I'm sure somebody who covers Manchester United, you hear a massive roar and you can just see through the shutter down in front of us, the TV, and you can see them celebrating. Like, I'm sure as a Manchester United fan, you'd have been furious with it. Now, to be fact, you probably would have been more furious if Liverpool had beaten you in the night, maybe. But yeah, I wasn't there, so it won't make the top 5, unfortunately.
Yeah, all right. When are you doing it? You're going to do it for us on Tuesdays? You're going away present to us?
I'm not a very match-going journalist. Am I? Like, I mean, I don't.
I mean, you can have your top 5 Kerry if you want.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to circle towards here. Okay, well, that's just what it's going to be.
As a going away present, we might break the rules for you. OTB AM is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Now, news broke last night that the Limerick football manager Billy Lee was stepping away from his position, and I'm delighted to say he's with us this morning to talk to us a little bit about his time in charge. Billy, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, lads. How are you?
You're back to civilian life. How's that feeling for you this morning, waking up without the responsibility of being the Limerick football manager?
Yeah, sure. Look, it's strange. And that's for sure. You know, inter-county sport consumes the lives of players and management, and I suppose it's just going to have to adapt back to, normality. I suppose we spend a lot of time being in that space, so it's just not really up and back. And so it'll be a change for sure. Less contact with the lads, and people have become very close friends and family through management and players. So just will adapt over time, I suppose.
What was behind your decision to step away now? On the face of it, it looks like you're in the midst of great, fast progress with the group as well. So it must have been difficult.
Yeah, it certainly was difficult. We struck a great camaraderie within the group, and we'd worked hard with that between the sport county board and the management team and the players. It's just unfortunate. My work circumstances. I worked in pause with Kerry, and I worked from home, and I found last year I was in Ballygowan when I first took the land. I was the boss there, and I was there till October 2020, and I left, and I took a position here last May, 12 months. And last year was a short season, because of COVID. But this year was quite challenging from time. I suppose many people would know, and I got a benchmark with a couple of friendly with rather than the ones like 40 hours a week at the county, job, even an hour each way. I just was afraid I wouldn't be able to give it the time and in preparation for Division 2. We're going to another standard, another level, and would have taken more effort from all of us, players, management, and support from the board. I was just afraid I wouldn't be able to give it the time required, and we've been speaking about it for the last number of weeks. In the midst of this, people who passed away and that delayed. So the talk and the decisions of this for the last number of weeks just came to fruition. Yes.
I like it's such a huge amalgamation of different pressures. Like real life essentially gets in the way, and as you say, there's like such great stuff to look forward to on a personal level. And I know you probably don't want to talk too publicly about this, but it must be disappointing in a way that like you've gotten to this point and it feels like there's a flowering happening, and it's a very honest appraisal of the pressures, because a lot of people would have gone, sure, look, I'll try and cut some corners to short circuit any of those issues, but it just sounds like your own honesty with the group won't allow you to do that. And again, that's something that a lot of people maybe wouldn't make that decision. So you obviously put the group at the centre of your decision making there.
Yeah, look, I suppose we as a group in Limerick, come back for many years. My predecessor had a really difficult time, John, in trying to hold people down, and historically, so we worked hard in rapid groundwork and take over 17 and 18 to help lads understand to transition to
Billy, we're just having a little bit of trouble listening, hearing the line there, so I think you might be having a little bit of trouble on your side as well. We might just try and give you a quick ring back to see if we can improve the quality of the line there. It's Billy Lee, the now ex-Limerick football manager, talking to us about the pressures of work and family life, just intervening. And it goes back to the bit that we were talking about at the start of the show, where it's essentially a full-time job.
Yeah, regardless of what county you're involved in now, it seems to be like you've got to throw your entire lot in it, and trying to actually maintain a job and trying to maintain like career ambitions, I'd imagine, within your own job is something you almost need to forget about as an intercounty manager. Like you mentioned earlier on, like the old quotes from Jack O'Connor saying that he, like, if he was still working, there's no chance he'd be able to do the job that he did with Kerry, and the fact that he's now retired has just allowed him to come back and do it. So things have changed quite a bit over the last few years, even between his couple of stints between Kerry indeed.
And it does feel like something special is happening in Limerick?
I think so. Like, it definitely feels that they were going in the right direction this year, and obviously Billy Lee would have got a huge amount of credit for where they were going, especially given the base that they were coming off just 4 years ago. I know that 2018 was a particularly low point for that team. What's interesting is that 2018 was the year that the Limerick hurlers get over the line for the first time, and I'm sure those resources that certain resources that Limerick hurling are benefiting from, obviously the footballers, but as well like population being in the city, all that sort of stuff. So this year was a very, very successful year for them.
Yeah, I think we've got Billy back on the phone there. Can you hear us a bit better this time, Billy?
I can indeed, Les, yes.
Yeah, that's much better. Thanks very much for that. I was just saying that a lot of managers might have said, look, sure, I'm going to give it a rattle here to see exactly what happens and short circuit as many of the issues as I can. But it sounds like your own honesty to yourself and to the group wouldn't allow you to do that.
No, look, I think I was saying that my predecessor would have had a struggle trying to hold on to players and keep, because that's where Limerick football was. And as an organisation, we were in a bad place, and that's no fault of any one person. That's just the group. So look, when I took it on, I quickly identified that and tried to set around bringing a group together that wanted to be with each other, and we're prepared to give it the time required. Supported them when they had exams or personal issues, and afford them the time to do that. But other than that, we were in the group, and we worked hard on that on 2018, and into the early parts of 19. And if that was one of the ethoses of the group, and I'm the leader of the group, it would be remiss of me to start short circuiting, and the jersey had to come first, the group had to come first, the unity of all that had to come first, and why we'd all like to be involved and helping out and trying to continue challenge and improve ourselves. It was just too important. Because if I started doing that, the boys would start doing that, and you quickly get into free fall.
Is inter-county management basically a full-time job at the moment?
I would think so, yes.
Like we were kind of talking earlier on about the fact that it seems to have like ratcheted up significantly, even in the space of the last 3-4 years. Is that been your experience?
Oh, most definitely, yeah. It's full on, you know. If you're not at training, you're on meetings, you're, you know, with the advent of Zoom and team calls through COVID, you know, what happened was that day kept to go, and the nights we were in training, we were trying to pick teams up, you know, spending 2 hours sitting down, maybe 3 hours chatting and picking teams, and the nights we were in training. And, you know, invariably, I found that I was in one room at home, and Margaret was in another room, and we would have a chat over a bite to eat before I went training, or I went on calls. And I suppose I was fortunate in that my kids are reared, and you know, they're, one is in Australia and one is living, you know, with our partner. So if you're a young manager and you have young kids, I have no idea what these lads are managing to do. It can be really, really difficult.
What was it like when you told the players that you were stepping away?
Yeah, look, I suppose they were somewhat disappointed. You know, we built up a huge camaraderie and togetherness and unity within the group. And yeah, look, conversations were started to have then, to, you know, see could we make it work. They were unanimous in trying to, you know, hold on to it, but I just really felt that the job had to go, or the football had to go, if I was going to give it everything that was required to continue, you know, the bit of a rise we've been on. And unfortunately, but I still have a mortgage and, you know, bills to pay, and it just wasn't possible.
Like, that's one of the elements of this as well. When you look at it, Billy, is that, like, unfortunately, a lot of intercounty careers either end in failure or they kind of end at like a low ebb. This is a very unusual case where it feels like a team is going somewhere and is still on the rise, and unfortunately, as you've outlined there, you've had to step away. Does that make it a harder thing to have to go through now?
I'm sure it does, you know. I mean, as I said, look, it's been a way of life for 6 years. My family were very invested in it, both my brothers and sisters and my immediate family, you know, and got a lot of pleasure out of it and made a lot of friends. And, you know, by the nature of intercounty, you know, you're not going to meet these people as regularly as you used to, and it feels like you've lost something. But look, life goes on, and we've all got to move on. And you know, I've always said to the lads, look, that it can be the organisation that we are involved with, which is football, has to be bigger than any one person, whether it be players or county board officials or members of management or the manager itself, and that'll be a testament to the strength of the group. And you know, next year was going to be a huge challenge in Division 2. You know, and we'd a lot of work to do that the lads have said about doing now in the off season with their programming and stuff like that. So look, we'll be there rooting and hoping that, you know, that they can continue the journey into 2023 under new leadership.
There's been a bit of an arms race in the last 10, 15 years in terms of the size and scale of backroom teams in intercounty, and as a result of that, the requirement on the manager to manage those relationships, and we talked a bit about this earlier in the show as well, but that has added extra layers to the hours and hours and hours that you need to spend, not just looking at and thinking of players and playing styles. What will actually make that manageable without us deciding that we're just going to pay managers who are intercounty managers to do the job? And that's no closer now than it was when Pádraig Duffy suggested that this might actually be the solution to one of the problems we have here. Instead, we've decided to put our head in the sand and go, no, that's it, keep going, lads. You keep sacrificing your career, your family life to do this thing which is supposed to be a hobby.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, lads. I suppose I've been fortunate in that the first 1 or 2 years, you know, we've gradually been rising, and look, for us, it was all about making sure that when we built one layer, before we went on, it sustained, it held before we moved on. And like, I think there was about 18 or 19 of us involved in the back, in the whole, between me and everybody involved. And I'd say when I started out, I'd say if I had 10, was the height of it. So I suppose the demands that are required now and the extra % or 2% that each management team are looking for or trying to build requires a person, because the manager doesn't have the time, and I suppose I don't, other than a manager being full time at it, I don't know. It's very rare you see things regress within any setup or nationally for that matter. So it's only going to continue to evolve, and there'll be a percentage increase every year as the effort and the time people are putting into it. It's something like, the manager has all these relationships, and as you rightly said there, it's not just all about the tactics and the players. Last year Brian stepped away from us and we brought in Morris, and just to manage Morris's integration, coupled with an additional physio in and a nutritionist, and all that just takes time that's unseen, and I suppose the general public wouldn't think about, because when the general public go watch a game, they're watching the team that's out in the field and that's 15 people, but there's probably another 35 sitting around the dugout or in the dressing room to manage as well. So it's quite challenging, but we mustn't forget we do it because we love it, and it's ingrained in us, and it's close to our hearts, and you just get on with it, and you accept all those that come with it.
Yeah, it just sometimes it feels like it's actually asking too much. Like we again, to bring this around, we were talking about the social media abuse that you open yourself up to when you get involved in the inter-county setup, and maybe that's less in Division 2, Division 3. I'm not sure, but I'm sure if there is any of it, that it hurts just the same. It just feels like it's a bit imbalanced at the moment. The demands and the requirements are out of whack with we get on with it because we love it. For a volunteer, not that any abuse is okay, but for a volunteer to open themselves up to that, I don't know, it doesn't feel like this is sustainable. I suppose that's what I'm saying, and you're living proof of it. Just as things are turning around and you're getting the reward for the work that you've put in, you're being forced to step away because the job is becoming bigger by virtue of the fact that you've turned it into something that's successful.
Yeah, look, I suppose, I was just doing a review of the different managers of football up and down, and a lot of the lads I know, they're retired or they're probably working for themselves. So certainly if you're working for a company, you're not your own boss, so you don't own your own business, it certainly is more challenging. Look, I suppose if you become a manager of a business or, in a locality, your head is above the parapet anyway at that point. I suppose you're managing inter-county, you're just probably spread outside. If you're down, probably Division 4 we started out, it's only the people within the county that are taking any note of it. Obviously, as you move up along the ranks, it becomes a bit more provincial initially, and then maybe a small bit national, Look, I didn't ever worry about being called out or so what social media is, you'd spot things, you have to take it with a grain of salt. You don't probably go into managerial roles either in business or in sport unless you're thick-skinned or, you have your own self-confidence or self-belief. Some people would be very confident in that space and others would just be quietly confident. I'd probably fall into that space. But, if we're concerned about, what people do, we'll never do anything. We don't always get it right. And you've got to put your hand up and recognise you don't always get it right. But you have to manage it. And sometimes I found that through my interviews, it was important to share information with, the supporters and the people who are interested in knowing, because sometimes it can stop room or innuendo taking place. So sometimes I found it important to share information, that people should. Why wouldn't you share with them? We're all representing the same team, so why wouldn't the supporters of Limerick not want to know, certain items of what's going on or what the plan might be, whether it worked or didn't work? But sometimes it can alleviate any criticism or rumour mill.
Yeah, can I ask Billy? over the course of your tenure, have you seen a shift in attitude towards football in Limerick?
Oh yeah, most definitely. It became more. I suppose people started to take up and notice. Invariably, look, the way it is in Limerick is hurling, rugby, and soccer will always be ahead of Gaelic football. But all we ever look to do is, there's plenty of lads who are very keen to play football and very capable footballers, I might add as well. And all we ever asked them to do was represent our people as best they could with their level of ability, and if they gave honesty to the jersey at all stages, and we demanded that. They're now starting to demand that of themselves. You will get people will come and support you. People didn't always turn up at matches, but the amount of support we got on the ground from people over the last number of years has been huge, and rewarding in many senses. To know that the fruits of our work, was seen, and people took notice of it. So So yeah, it certainly would have been.
The last 4 years have been particularly interesting, Billy, because people will remember the night of the Clare game in that year's championship where you were beaten well, and I think you'd said after the game that you'd considered actually pulling the team out of the championship and out of that game, I should say, because of a lack of meals available for players, and there was a mess up when it came to the team submitted before the game. And I think you went into further detail around that season just about the amount of players that dropped off the panel the previous year, and I think 53 players, it was a number you said, that had turned down an invitation to join the team that year. So at that point, at that low ebb, did you think you would get to a point where 4 years later you'd be getting into the top two divisions and very much turning the ship around?
Oh, absolutely not. You would have been if you thought that, you would be a millionaire because you would have won the last 4 or 5 times over. No, absolutely not. That night, was a really, really difficult night. I was quite irate. I found it very difficult to go and talk to that individual who had been left out of the group that night. Tempers were frayed that night. I was on the high horse and I wasn't for budging. It's kind of a character I get entrenched. But I have to say, what the county board did after that for the following years, that's what I'd like to remember them as, the support they gave us. When they got fierce criticism from me publicly, the level of support they gave us in the ensuing 4 years, was right up there, and it's hard to believe that, and I suppose that shows proper leadership from the officials, and they were able to take, a smack right in the chin, and they grew above it, and they came on, and it's probably no surprise that, Limerick G is in a good place under the leadership of John and Mike and Liam Burke, and then in the football side, we had Jerry Phillips, and currently we have Wayne Fitzgerald, and we have Dave McGuinness, and that's it, and that's a testament to them. It was easy for me to fire the bullets. They had to absorb them, and they rebounded, and they came forward, and that's a credit to them, I think. I suppose, if you look beyond the 2 flagship teams, the organisation was going well. We were in under 21 hurling final this year. The minors have been going well the last number of years. The underage football has started to win games as well. So it's bigger than what we've done and what John has done in the hurling, and that's coming from proper leadership.
What changed after that night in 2018?
I don't honestly know. I can surmise. I don't know. I often joked with him and I said it was easier leave me in the role and suffer than get rid of me, because I wouldn't have suffered anything, But I really don't know. Maybe they saw it. My own summation is maybe that they'd have known me, and known Limerick football close to my heart, and maybe they saw, look, maybe he's right. Maybe I really couldn't. I'm only surmising. I'm only guessing. But and bear in mind, in 2019 when they left me at it, we were competing okay in Division 4. We weren't winning games, 1 or 2 games. I felt we should have won at the time. We didn't. But they still started to back us during the summer of 18. And I'm on record as saying that the players went to work during the summer of 18 when we got some awful beatings in 18. Mayo gave us a trimming shortly after Clare beat us. And I remember Leishman giving us a trimming. the lads went to work and they were supported by the county board, and that was only a short space of time after I having the right go at them, and the following summer was the same. So you would have to ask the boys as to why that was the case, but look, forever grateful to give me the opportunity to lead my county, and there's no greater honour.
Billy, last one then. Your own involvement in the future, are you done, or when your mortgage is paid off, could you be tempted back?
Yeah, so I've never closed the door on anything. That's just the way I don't have any plans, or I don't have any ambitions to say I'm going to do this, that, and the other. People who know me know that's not the way it is with me. We'll sit back and take stock, and just trying to readjust into what we come off the treadmill and readjust to just normal life, and plenty of time in my hands, and I suppose make sure I'm not driving Margaret mad at home now. That'll be the first challenge anyway, I've no doubt. But with no plans, no ambitions. I just take things as they come and easy going in that space. And I'm sure that there was plenty of things to do within the club at home, or within Limerick football down the grades, and somewhere on the line we'll help out somewhere.
Well, listen, it's clear that you've left Limerick football in a much better situation than when you took it over, and not every inter-county manager gets to walk away saying that. So congratulations on putting together so far a great career, and thanks a million for joining us this morning.
No bother, lads. Thank you.
It's Billy Lee, who's just stepped away as the manager of the Limerick Footballers. It's 9:15 this morning. If you want to get in touch, you can text us. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number, or you can always get us on youtube.com/off the ball. Now, champions Rob Kearney, Johnny Murtagh and Ger Lyons join Off the Ball for our Longines Irish Champions Weekend special. This is taking place this Friday, the 26th of August at 7 o'clock in the Davenport Hotel. It's previewing what promises to be a cracking weekend of Premier Racing at Leopardstown and the Curragh on Saturday and Sunday, September the 10th and 11th. So obviously we're talking about that weekend in a couple of weekends away, but it's this Friday evening. An exclusive off-air event, so the only way to enjoy it is to be there. Tickets to attend the show are free, but please register at otbsports.com/events for tickets. We're going to take a quick break, and we're back with Sene Naoupu.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Off the Ball's the best, number one.
It's the GOAT of sports apps.
Talk about the greatest of all time. Nathan, Big Joe. Big Joe's the greatest of all time. He's the GOAT. We know it.
So
every single time. Yes.
It's tough going. It's tough for my ego. I'm going to say I'm the Djokovic of this scenario.
I love it.
This is OTB Sports Radio. Download the OTB Sports app now.
If your business relies on a van, that wouldn't sound good. But this does. Get up to 75% off van insurance. Now available in FBD branches nationwide. FBD Insurance. Support. It's what we do. 75% no claims discount based on 5 years claims free. Available on new van policies used for farm or business purposes. Terms and conditions apply. Underwritten by FBD Insurance PLC. FBD Insurance Group Limited, trading as FBD Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
17 minutes past 9 this morning here on OTB AM. Oh, no sound.
That is your voice and Joe's face.
Me doing my Joe Malloy impression.
Yeah, it was very good.
It wasn't very good. No, it wasn't.
No, it was very impressive.
Are we going to play that clip? Do we have a clip? Yeah. Well, we can do it.
Actually, hear Joe.
Yeah, this is from the Roto. Have a listen.
In training and in matches, you must have seen Zidane do the most ridiculous things.
Zidane was the best player I've ever played with. He was absolutely born to be a footballer. It was almost, when you're a kid and you've got the football at the end of a string and it just keeps coming back to you. I mean, it was like he played with an invisible string. No matter what touch he took, it was always the same distance away from him. The way he moved, like if a ball comes into my chest and I want to go over there, or most people, you chest it, you wait for it to drop, and then you take another touch and then you're off. He just had this amazing, wherever the ball came, if it came up around his ear or anywhere, he could just take it into the direction that he wanted to in one touch, and it be in perfect control, just always 3-4 foot ahead of him. He was just incredible. Left foot, right foot, fast. He was so fast, so strong. he could do a Cruyff turn out of a little hole and burst away, and the strength of the guy as well. I was quite scared of him, to be honest, because when I first walked in, he's got these really deep eyes, you know, and I walked, and it was a nightmare because in the changing ground, the door was here, and it was quite a long, thin dressing room, and I was like far left, down the bottom. And as soon as I walked in, sort of Zidane was on the left, but up here, and he used to just sit there. Everyone else was like playing keepy-ups and whatever, and he used to just sit there like this all, you know, for about half an hour, just staring at everyone. And I thought when I first came in that he must hate me because he just stared at me the whole way. I was petrified of him for the first month or two until I realised he did it to everyone. But no, he was just incredible. What a player he was.
That's Michael Owen speaking about Zidane, obviously, at our Cadbury FC Roadshow. You should dig out the full podcast of that. As I predicted, Michael Owen was absolutely brilliant. But, I mean, maybe it's fair to say that Ian Wright was the actual star of the show on the night. But then loads of the good stuff that Ian Wright said was only for the people in the room. So when we say you have to be there, you have to be there. And that goes for our roadshow this week and for next week as well. Emma Byrne, Katie McCabe, also brilliant on the night too. So you can get that goodness in our football stream. Just subscribe to OTB Football and the podcasts are there for you. It's 20 minutes past 9. I'm delighted to say Sene Naoupu is with us now to talk to us about her career and the retirement announcement. Sene, was there a finality to it when you finally admitted that that was the end? Had it been coming for you for a while? How did that whole thing feel?
Well, hey guys, thanks for having me on the show. First of all, I didn't really come on here to talk about retirement, did I? But yeah, it's. I just think it was time to make way for the next gen, and it was such an exciting game at the weekend for 6 of those new players and the whole squad to get bled into the system. And yeah, it's a big year. It's a massive year for women's rugby in general. Next year is a huge year as well, and it's one of those things. It's the women's game's at an inflection point, and you've got to go all in. And for me, at this stage of my life, I've been going all in for about 10 years in that program. Loved every minute, the highs and lows. But you know, I've made a decision that there's other things I also need to go all in, and thankfully it's still involved in the game from a global perspective with international rugby players and some other really exciting pieces of work off the field. So that, yeah, that's why as well. So I'm partly heartbroken, but at the same time I'm excited to move forward into this next phase of my life.
Are you just ready for it? Is that how that decision comes in your own head? It's like, okay, now's the time, and you know, it's a remarkable career that you've put together in Ireland in particular, and obviously before that too, but the bit that we're most familiar with. So were you just ready for it? Was it natural in the end?
Oh, yes and no. I consulted and spoke to so many peers of mine, and obviously needed a bit of time for myself and my family, and this really strong support network that I've got here in Ireland. I'm really thankful for them, and overseas as well. So I've been fortunate just to have so many perspectives. But yeah, I think it is the right time. You know, Japan is a historic tour, a couple of games, the next regional competition, which is our Six Nations on this side of the world. On the other side, it's like your Pac Fours and Asian competitions around that March-April window. That's huge. Our girls are going to, you know, place top 3 in that to make the top division in the global comp, which will be the first time. We launch that next year. So that WXV starts next year. That'll be huge. So we've got to qualify for that top tier or 3 tiers. So that'll be around the window just before the Men's World Cup next year. So, you know, all of those sorts of things have come into play with my decision. And certainly what that means for the next couple of years for the program, for the pathways as well. So domestically, what do our windows look like? What are the timings of that to maximise our talent going into the global window? And then obviously for that 25 World Cup in England. So there's a lot of those sorts of factors for me from a strategical thinking that I work in strategy in my off-field and things like that. So I considered that perspective for the best thing for Ireland in terms of the experience that our girls need and the time in the saddle, our 10s, 12, 13s need as well. You know, your number one playmakers, second playmakers, depending on your shapes, whether it's the 13 as your second playmaker or whatever it is. But those girls need time in the saddle, and I've had my time. I've been fortunate over a number of years from New Zealand, and experienced a little bit in Japan and in the UK as well, and certainly here in Ireland. So I'm just really excited for the girls. I'll still absolutely be involved in the game, and I'll still as much as I can stay fit just in case. Never say never. I'll always have my boots in the car maybe, but it really is their time, and it's a super exciting time for the talent in Ireland, because I'll tell you what, there's some talent in some of the rural parts of Ireland as well as your metro urban areas. So it's a massive time. We've just got to capture that talent and nurture them.
What were the emotions like watching the team at the weekend for the first time not being an Ireland player?
Oh, super question. Jeepers. It was an emotional week as it was anyway. I was actually... it's a great question. I was really proud of the girls. I thought that I was watching the game from a lens as obviously at the time I was officially a former player and that, but I was just really proud of the girls. I actually just watched that thinking that was some line. I was just really proud of the way that the girls that were able to come back from what they would have termed and what they have termed in the public as a rocky start, and they were able to come back from that and execute some really, really, really nice set piece tries. I'm pretty big on the KPI, so it'll be interesting to see what their KPIs are in the games that they have, but certainly from a set piece execution. In one of the thirds of that game, that was 100%. Some of their green zone entries weren't bad either. Ruck speed as well. Really impressed with some of the quick ball that Elsa was able to get away. Obviously some areas to work on, but overall I was really happy with how Dana and Inyas and Aoife as well. Dana and Aoife are new recruits at Old Belvedere, so looking forward to sort of supporting them as well. And Inya obviously super player, and the best is yet to come from her as well. But I know they would have done a lot of analysis on Japan's defence, and to be fair, Japan's defence wasn't the greatest from set piece especially. Some of their systems were caught quite narrow on the inside, so they were able to execute that with their DSPs, and DSPs won out. So that was really good to see that they're thinking like that, the backline. So I was thinking like that watching the game.
What are your highlights? We had Niamh Briggs on yesterday, and she was saying she had a good long chat with you recently enough, and kind of talked about the memories that you guys have and that you'll always have that you made together as a successful team. For you, when you were making a statement and ringing people and saying, okay, my time in an Ireland jersey is over, what are the things that actually stood out for you?
Oh, Jesus, you're going to make me cry on the bloody Zoom here. Briggs is one of my favourite players to play alongside. All of the players I've had the honour and privilege to play alongside. I've never received a switch pass like that before. Was probably scored every time. And then to be coached by herself and then Greg in the last campaign for my career, for members of that 2013-2014 squad that inspired my comeback to 15s in the first place. Was something that I placed a lot of meaning into. She herself and your Tanya Rosses and your Nora Stapletons, Jenny Murphy. It was a special time for me personally, because I look up to them. We're all very good friends, obviously, but I still look up to them. And, in part, while my journey started as a 13-year-old from a small town of Waimāru, and fortunate to play with some of the best players in the world from New Zealand as well. But certainly I was just so inspired by that group. And then I suppose that actually was part of my motivation for the next couple of cycles I've been fortunate to have been involved in, because I wanted to give that moment to the young girls coming through. Most of it didn't go to plan, but I'm at peace that I gave it everything, and that our team, Kira Griffin, superb leader, Lindsay Peat, Claire Malloy, so many incredible players there who I got to learn and laugh and live and train and play alongside. It was just phenomenal. And it's those little moments and that type of lifestyle that I suppose, you never take for granted. And for me, certainly every moment, I loved, even to the point where that pain of missing the World Cup and the years of hard work that we put into that particular cycle, in the cycles before, the way we came together as a squad, I'll always remember that. And those are the true high stakes of high performance sport. So then now working off the pitch on the global game and with international rugby players, and part of my piece of work with heading strategic projects and research is around how to support that player journey in and out of rugby, and from a different lens. It's a really interesting perspective, and how to best support or develop and deliver infrastructure together with the unions and World Rugby and all of the player associations around the world, how we can best truly support the player journey, that in some ways you can anticipate the high stakes and how to minimise some of the the impact that could have on mental health and those sorts of things. So it's an interesting journey, pretty holistic here. And sorry to go so deep for 9:30 in the morning.
Look, we're all about that. Absolutely. Well, look, it's been a remarkable career, as I said, and we wish you the very best of luck. And that's important work, the support of our athletes is something we talk about this all the time, that like we see the 90 minutes or the 80 minutes depending on the sport, or the 60 minutes if it's Club GAA, and we don't really think about the rest of it most of the time as sports fans, but it is definitely important stuff, and we know the impact that a little bit of pre-planning and that your experience when it's shared, and having somebody who's had your experience be at the forefront of helping the unions and the players develop a plan for that into the future can't but be good. So Sene, thanks so much for joining us, and congratulations on a great career.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. Have a good day. Thank you.
It's Sene Naoupu there talking to us about her career in an Ireland jersey. At 9:31 this morning, we've got to tell you what's coming up on OTB Sports Radio today. OTB Gold at 1 o'clock is an Irish football special with Shay Given, Niall Quinn, Jason McAteer and Kevin Kilbane. Our Sue Ronan coaching interview is today's episode of Koi Gig. Our retro panel is the importance of Club GAA, and OTB Gold is Colm Gooch Cooper. We're live each morning with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Tomorrow morning at 7:30, John Hartson's going to be here to tell us why you had to be there. Matt Williams will talk to us about the Rugby Championship. Graham Hunter joins us to talk to us about the Casemiro transfer and the latest ongoings at Barcelona, where they still haven't registered all their players. It's fairly remarkable.
Yeah, obviously they still need to get Aubameyang off the books in order to ensure that they can get everybody on the sheet of paper 2 games into the season and still not sorted.
They're saying Lewandowski and Ansu Fati are the new dynamic duo, because Lewandowski, I think, scored after 2 minutes and Fati scored at the end of the game in the 4-1 win. They'd already dropped points in the first game of the season, but look, I'm not writing them off just yet.
No, they're definitely not. There's are we going to be happy for them if they win the league? Or
I mean, they've been beating Real Madrid. I mean, I don't know. It's things have, whatever about Manchester United being the Hollywood FC variation and the greatest soap opera in this part of the world. I think Barcelona are kind of looking at them going, hey, let's make them. That's like off Broadway, we're Broadway.
Yeah, it's Barcelona's like the Michael Bay version of whatever screenplay Manchester United are currently operating in.
As I said earlier, what's rare is wonderful. We're going to leave you this morning with the one and only Kevin Kilbane. He still exists. Have a look at this.
But delighted to say to kick off the football show, which is brought to you by Sky, where you can watch over 400 games this season from the Premier League, the Women's Super League, the Scottish Premiership and EFL live on Sky Sports. We've got Republic of Ireland legend and, of course, friend of the show, Kevin Kilbane with us. Kev, how are you getting on?
I'm good, Will. How's things?
Yeah, it's good to hear from you. Generally,
I know. It's been a long time, hey?
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had a chat. Kind of follow along on social media and generally see the clips every now and again popping up with you talking about Canada going to the World Cup and Major League Soccer at the moment. And look, it's not a bad time to be following Toronto, Kev. I see Insigne has gone to Toronto.
Yeah, Insigne, Bernardeschi, Chris Chateau as well, who obviously has had a good career in Italy and Russia for a while as well. So they signed the 3 Italian boys through this window, and they're in a bit of trouble actually. Will they're in a bit of trouble? Probably still in a bit of trouble now. It's a bad defeat at the weekend. They've pretty much got to win or take points out of every game now to the end of the season to make the playoffs. But it's definitely exciting. I don't know if anyone's seen some of the goals that have been scored over the last few weeks by Toronto. There's been some special goals, particularly last weekend from Insigne himself with the beauty, yeah.
There's always been a bit of an Italian connection with the city of Toronto, just with immigration into the city. But how come these Italian European Championship winners are going to Toronto now?
Well, I believe Toronto's outside Italy. They have the biggest population outside New York. I think it's the second biggest population outside New York of immigration. So that probably says it all. There's a huge Italian community here in Toronto, and that's probably something that entices the Italian players here. But I think fundamentally, ultimately, it was the money that was thrown at particularly Bernardeschi. I think that deal went through last January, and the numbers. I think he's the highest paid player ever in the MLS. To get him here was something. It was a real coup for TFC to get him here first and foremost. The wages, of course, and then they signed Bernardeschi out of Juve. His contract had run out. So to get him in as well, those two have made a huge difference to the side. And I think they're bringing the best out of one or two other players that surround them as well. So it's there's a long way to go, but the connection here, certainly with Italy, is huge, yeah.
And Giovinco was there previously as well. We'll talk about the Premier League in a bit, but a few kind of Major League Soccer bits that jump to mind straight away. Wayne Rooney's gone back to DC United to manage them, and just take a look at the results. The results haven't been good. That's partly why there was a change in management and Rooney's going in. It looks like DC United probably won't make the playoffs, but what would kind of be expected of Rooney now that he's gone back into the league again?
Yeah, it is unlikely. At the bottom of the table, Will, they've probably no chance of making the playoffs at this stage, but it's about building towards next season now. And what I've noticed here, there can be a dramatic turnaround in only a few months. I think outside some of the DPs, the designated players, there is a huge gulf between real quality and maybe the lesser players within the league. So if you sign a couple of DPs that can bring one or two of the, I'd say, mid-run players along with you, pretty much what TFC have done now. They've got a real buzz around the city. They've got these two big players that they've got in, and they're getting huge gates. DC probably need to do something similar. Obviously, Benteke's gone in there now as well. It'll be about next season, Will. That's pretty much what it'll be about for Rooney. They need to probably start well next season, because I think the one thing I've noticed when I'm following the MLS, the season starts, there's a big fanfare around the start of the league, and then the season starts in March. Well, usually it would start in February, March time. Through May, June and July, it's a quiet month, and in fairness, a lot of the games become meaningless, and it was something Zlatan Ibrahimovic said when he was here. A lot of the games do become meaningless because obviously there's no relegation. It's about making the playoffs. You go on a run towards the end of the season and win 5 out of your last 7 games, or go on a great run, you make the playoffs, and that's what it's all about, making the playoffs for a lot of these teams. So Rooney's got a big overhaul to do. They've sold 1 or 2 players, they've brought 1 or 2 in, but it will be about next season, about building towards a great start for him personally, maintaining through those summer months, and then towards the back end of the season in the autumn to get into the playoffs.
Were you surprised to see Rooney take that as his next step? Because he got plenty of praise, Kev, for what he was doing at Derby under horrific circumstances because of the finances and players not getting their wages. And I think he even helped out with the wages for a couple of the weeks at the end of last season. But Rooney generally came out of that job with Derby with a little bit of credit, and he could potentially have gone to work elsewhere, particularly in the Championship or within the Football League. Decided to go back over to America. Were you surprised he made that move as his next managerial post?
Not really, actually. No, I think he can probably concentrate now fully on his own coaching style, away from maybe a little bit of scrutiny. There's always going to be scrutiny because it's Wayne Rooney, and there'll be a lot more people that will be following DC United because Wayne Rooney is there. But I know that Wayne has come over to try to develop his own coaching skills, his own coaching techniques, develop himself in every aspect of that. So I think he'll probably get a little bit more time here to develop that. And I think that's probably the most important thing. You mentioned there maybe one or two options maybe in England. He immediately ruled himself out of that Everton job before Lampard took over. There was probably one or two more jobs that he could have taken, but it still would have been at championship level where there would have been huge pressure to succeed immediately. I think at DC, I think he gets a little bit more time. I think that helps him develop more. I think that's probably the reason why he has actually taken that job, Will.
Your old club Everton at the weekend got what will probably feel like an important point against Nottingham Forest. Was watching the game on the TV, very late game, very late goal even from Demarai Gray to rescue a point. But the point was probably badly needed after the start that Everton had to the season.
Yeah, well, he was getting to the stage, Will. I watched the full game. I was getting to the stage, once you were getting to the last 20, 30 minutes of the game before Forest had scored, it was seeming a bit desperate, like, this could be a big game for Everton come the end of the season. That's the way it was seeming to me. And then Forest score, and you're thinking, this could be dire now, because there'll be huge pressure going into the next couple of weeks, particularly with the window not shut, Lampard under pressure to sign players, and obviously getting results off the back of that. It was a big point in the end, a huge point, because now, as I said, it's almost as if the rivals now are Forest this season. The rivals are going to be some of the teams that's going to be at the bottom. They've got to try and break themselves away from that. There's a lot of pressure on Lampard, and I spoke about it on the show with you guys at the end of the season, listening to Michael Keane, listening to who was the other guy who was being interviewed as well. I can't remember now off the top of my head. There was one or two of the Everton players talking about the pressure of being in the position that they were in last season. And in all honesty, not much has changed. If anything, they've had to sell a couple of the best players. Is Anthony Gordon going to be allowed leave? That's potentially could happen in the next couple of weeks. So these results now are no-lose games immediately. And I felt as though it was a big point for Everton now just going forward, because there's going to be a few tough days ahead. The games that I saw, I watched Chelsea and I watched Forest, and I have to say, Will, there's not an awful lot that's been created in those games, like chances, clear chances in those matches. Even against Forest, Forest was solid at the weekend. They had a back four fairly much intact throughout the game and didn't want to give too much away. And Everton are going to struggle to break that type of team down, because, I mean, I wouldn't even say, I was going to say they're without Calvert-Lewin, but even with Calvert-Lewin, they failed to really open up sides recently. So they need somebody that's going to be the difference maker, and that's going to be the difficulty if Gordon were to leave, because he can give them that bit of spark and does give them something a little bit different.
Yeah, because like even last season when Everton were getting pulled into trouble, you were thinking Richarlison is there to get them enough goals to probably keep them up, and Gordon was starting to emerge a little bit, and then Calvert-Lewin got injured, but still Richarlison was there to score. Now he's gone, understandably, big bid for him. I wonder, Kev, as well, when it comes to Gordon, if it goes to 50-60 million pounds, it's going to be very difficult for Everton to turn that down.
Yeah, and particularly with the financial situation that they're in as well, needs must have had to sell Richarlison in the summer. I don't think many Evertonians wanted to see him go, but that could be the case again with Gordon. It might be a case of building up off the back of that sale. That's the way it might be. There's going to be a lot of pressure really on Demarai Gray as well, who scored the goal at the weekend. I've really liked Demarai Gray, first of all, when I saw him at Birmingham, and I've said this before, I saw him at Birmingham, saw him obviously at Leicester, and saw the development in his career, but he's been blighted by total inconsistencies. He's not able to pull it all together a lot when he's been starting matches. So there'll be a lot of pressure on maybe Demarai Gray this year, maybe even when Townsend, when he gets fit as well, to be that creative spark within the side, because they need something different. I saw they were trying to sign, or they have been trying to sign, who's the guy from Watford, Will, I can't think of his name off the top of my head now, that Newcastle have been in for. So potentially they could be getting him in, and that will actually relieve a little bit of pressure on Calvert-Lewin when he does get fit. But it is about maybe trying to get that little bit more of a creative spark within the side, because they've seriously lacked in the games that I've seen Everton play this season.
Yeah, João Pedro, the player at Watford, who Newcastle have been in for as well.
That's it.
It's going to probably be difficult to keep up with Newcastle's financial muscle, but maybe it might be possible if Gordon goes to Chelsea, and then that frees up some funds to potentially sign him. But Demarai Gray's pace is going to be so important, though, Kev, as you mentioned, because I thought against Aston Villa, particularly, Everton played remarkably deep and are now playing the three centre-backs, and even their wing-backs were playing very defensively that day. So the best chance they had of carrying a threat was actually getting the ball up to him and letting him be direct. And they're going to need that pace if they're going to carry something on the counter this season.
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't see a lot of the Villa game. I saw all the highlights from it, but I didn't.
I suffered it for you.
From start to finish. Did you? Well, there you go. There you go. But
it was
right,
very early your time. It was an early Saturday kickoff the week before, so I can understand if you were still in bed.
Yeah, I'm normally up for the 7:30 games. I like the early kickoffs. I normally get them, but I didn't get it last weekend. Unfortunately, I missed out on it. But I think what you're saying there is right. I think if Everton are going to play that way and sitting deep, we saw United playing that way to an extent last night. You know, if you're going to play against sides that's going to have more possession, then you're going to have to sit in deep. It's how you break against sides, and you've got to have ball carriers, which Demarai Gray is. You've got to have pace, of course, which Demarai Gray possesses as well. Obviously, Calvert-Lewin, he's got pace, he's got aerial ability as well, and the ability to hold the ball up. But Gordon's another one as well that we speak about, who's a ball carrier. He's maybe still a bit of unpredictability about him. But these are the type of players that you need if you're going to sit in Tarkowski and who's the other centre half, whether it's Mina, whether it's Keane, whether it's who's the other centre half. Will, I'm trying to think of the top of my head here now.
I have a few options, and Keane was on the bench for the first two games. So I used to work his way back into the team.
Whoever they're going to play, certainly Tarkowski's used to playing in a Burnley side that sit in as a back four. They don't get out too much. You know, it's about sitting in as a tight back four and trying to break from those positions. So if you're going to play like that, you need ball carriers, and that's maybe if they were to let Gordon go, that would be my only issue with that sale. They've not got another ball carrier in the side that's going to be able to get them up the pitch quickly.
Slow start for Everton, slow start for the red half of Liverpool too. I thought, despite what Jurgen Klopp said after the game about if there'd been a few more minutes, Liverpool would have got an equaliser, and he felt maybe even on the balance of play Liverpool could have won. I actually thought, watching the game, that Manchester United looked pretty comfortable winners last night.
Before the last 15-20 minutes, as soon as Salah gets the goal, there was a bit of panic setting, wasn't there? But I think, although Liverpool had, 70% possession that they had of the ball, and they had more shots at goal than United, I think, throughout, it was still, I felt, a comfortable enough win for United. And as much as I say that, it's, you know, sometimes when you don't have the ball, I always feel you can control a game even though you've not got a vast majority of possession. I do feel that you can actually control a game, and I think United did that last night. I think the back four tucked in nice and narrow. I think as a back four, it's probably as good as I've seen United in a long time. I think that's something that's been mentioned. You know, I've listened to you guys this morning on OTB AM and listened to what the guys are saying about as a back four, United were excellent, and I think they organised, particularly with Varane and Martinez last night. I think we really saw how that partnership's going to work. But Liverpool overall, they could have nicked something in the last 15-20 minutes though. Well, I think that they pushed on, and they looked to me like if anyone was going to score late on, it was going to be Liverpool with the way that Man United were playing. But I think for 70 minutes of that game, I think United will be fairly happy that it can be a template they can use to go forward, yeah.
Manchester United decided, Kev, to drop both Maguire and Cristiano. Cristiano came on for a bit of a cameo towards the end of the game and blasted a shot into the Trafford end, was about all he did after he came on. But I wonder, is this going to be a case of those two guys are going to be on the bench from now on, or whether he's tempted to bring them back in? Like Maguire particularly is probably going to find it difficult to get back into the side now.
Yeah, I think so. I was listening to, I saw it online, stuff that Jamie Carragher was saying about Martinez and how teams are going to target him. I think last night was the perfect game for him, that he was able to sit in. He didn't necessarily need to step in, and Liverpool weren't going direct that we saw Brentford doing, or we saw Brighton doing at times. I think he's still going to have issues, Martinez. I do think that, but I still feel he has to be a better option than Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire simply has to come out of that side, simply with the pressure that's been on him as well, and it's been mounting. Whether or not United can sell him before the window closes, I'm not too sure. Cristiano Ronaldo, I know you mentioned him there, Will, but it just seems to me United have just got to pay him up. If they want him out the door, he's not going to move, he's not going to go quietly. Just pay him up. They're paying over the odds on transfer fees, it seems, everyone that goes into the club by 20 and 30 million. That's probably about the amount they're going to have to pay Ronaldo up to go. If they're going to get rid of him, that seems to be the only viable option, I think. Pay him up, make Ronaldo a free, and then there'll be suitors around Europe to take him. But just going back to the partnership of Varane and Martinez, I think it was excellent. It's probably Varane's best performance in a United shirt, I would feel, that was last night. But it's not going to be Liverpool. We're going to test them now. This is the thing we've seen in the last two games. Again, prior to that, with Brighton and Brentford, targeted the back four with pace, with direct running in behind, with direct balls played. And this is where United are going to struggle when they've got a majority of the ball. And that performance last night was almost like Solskjaer in his early days, when they were giving up possession, they were playing on the counter, and they looked great. I actually like teams playing like that. I really like it. Certainly Man United historically have always played that sort of counter-attacking play. They've always sat in quite narrow as a back four. They've been solid, but they've had pace to ball carriers, runners in behind. I don't think Ten Hag is going to play like that. And I think if they do play open against certain sides, I don't think McTominay is going to be the answer alongside Casemiro. I don't think that, because I think if you're going to put all the pressure on Casemiro to do that job as a holding role in the middle of the park with Fred or with McTominay, whoever's going to be beside him, I don't think they're good enough to do that. So it might be a bit of a, as I said before, a template to go forward for United. Just being narrow as a back four and try to utilise that pace that you've got within the side with Elanga, with Rashford or Martial. He was excellent at times last night as well, and has been excellent this season. So it might be the time that they can actually sit in a little bit and use last night as a way to go forward.
Flip side to all of that, looking at the Liverpool performance, midfield didn't function really. Henderson and Milner struggled to get around with the energy that United had around the middle of the park. Yeah. Their fullbacks were penned back quite a bit. Trent Alexander-Arnold had a very difficult night with Elanga, particularly in the first half. And then something that's very different, Kev, to what they did before. Sadio Mane wasn't there to make those runs in behind. Salah was having to come deep to get the ball quite a bit. And it's just naturally with Firmino as well. He's not going to go in behind the two central defenders. In a way, it made it much easier for Manchester United to defend in the way they did last night because of how different Liverpool were to the Liverpool teams of the last few seasons.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Sadio Mane is a huge loss for them with what he gave them. And you mentioned there Firmino. Firmino never really ran in behind defences. What he gave them a platform to build off. And in general, would drop deep, and you constantly saw those diagonal runs from out to in from Salah and Mane. And that was the template of how Liverpool played. And if they did that last night, I think they would have put, or played that type of football, as I spoke about with Brentford and Brighton, being a little bit more direct. That's going to hurt United because they're going to struggle. Whereas I think they give them a bit of an easy ride. I think for all that Malacia was excellent up against Salah, I thought he enjoyed his defensive role right up against him. But as you say, when Salah was dropping deep, it was easier for him to go in. And because he knew there was no one that was going to go in behind him, Milner wasn't really going to make that run from deep, and neither was Henderson into the right channel. So it was easy for him in that respect. Don't get me wrong, he's still up against a world-class player, and he's got to do that job. And I thought he was excellent at just doing that defensive role. But losing Mane, that is such a huge loss for Liverpool. And we knew it was going to be that way. Diaz is not the sort of player that's going to continuously run in behind. He's not going to be that type that's going to come from in to out consistently. He's such a goal threat. Probably technically he might be better than Mane. That's the way that I would see it. But he doesn't carry the threat continuously for 90 minutes that Mane carried. And that's the difference, I feel, when you don't have him in the team.
They'll get to a point. Darwin Núñez will be back from his suspension in a couple of games. These injuries will go away. To be missing 7 first-team players.
He's another one, sorry, Will, just with Núñez last night, the physicality that he would have given them up against those two centre-halves that enjoyed that battle last night. I think that would have been a different battle if he would have played last night. But again, it's all ifs and buts, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. But you looked across their bench, and with the exception of being able to bring on young Carvalho to come in to make a bit of a difference, they didn't have great options on the bench because of the injuries they have currently. How concerning is the start for Liverpool, or do we expect that when they get those players back, it's just going to get back more towards where they've been in recent seasons?
I think the most concerning part for Liverpool, particularly last night, was how they were outran in the game. I think I read somewhere that United had almost double the amount of sprints than Liverpool, or certainly a vast majority more sprints than Liverpool all over the pitch, covering more ground. That's so unlike Liverpool. Liverpool outrun teams. They're able to drive over the top of them just with the physical attributes that a lot of those players have. And we never saw that last night from Liverpool. So that will come. Klopp will get them right in that respect. It might just take a few weeks before we start to see that type of thing clicking, fitness levels rise, and they start to get a bit more comfortable. But there's been a bit of an overhaul. There's been a lot of change in the last year, hasn't there? Certainly up front, the three that we had Liverpool down as every single week. Firmino, Salah, Mane. Firmino's going to be a player that's going to be a bit in and out this season. Losing Mane, Diaz is still settling. They don't have Jota at the moment as well, who made a huge difference to Liverpool last season. So those injuries, as you say, once they get back, Liverpool will be okay. But as we've seen in recent seasons, the league could be beyond them. They could be chasing, after the World Cup. The World Cup's going to be a huge distraction for a lot of players, and it's going to be a killer for the Premier League clubs. And when they get back after the World Cup, when you're into January and February and beyond that, we may see the best of Liverpool then. But ultimately, it may be too little too late, because we've seen in recent seasons that when you're playing catch-up against the likes of City, they're not going to drop too many points.
Most impressive win of the weekend, in many ways, was Leeds against Chelsea. Yeah. Chelsea are blunt up front, and they're going to probably have to bring someone in, and maybe Aubameyang as the player is going to be signed as their new number 9. But Leeds, hell of a start to the season, after Jesse Marsh just kind of steadied the ship. And there were plenty of question marks about Jesse Marsh when he came in, because naturally I think Leeds supporters were very attached to Bielsa for everything that had happened, and kind of the joy of getting out of the championship with him. And there were plenty of question marks about Jesse Marsh coming in. But Leeds have started this season pretty well.
No, incredibly well. Well, I really enjoyed watching them. I against Chelsea, and I've enjoyed watching them. And as you say, the task of replacing Bielsa was huge. You'd probably say he's Leeds' most admired manager probably since Don Revie. Certainly, that's the way it seems to me. And Leeds fans put him right up there with Don Revie. So I think for Jesse Marsh to come in and replace him, and the task that he's got, it's no mean feat, and it's going to be difficult for him to get that consistency that Bielsa had for such a long time. But I think there was a lot of negativity around him simply because of his accent as well, Will. That's the thing. There was a bit of a laughing stock around Bob Bradley when he went into Swansea a few years ago. I think Armas, the assistant manager that was at United, there was a little bit of negativity around him. I think that was within their own camp, many suggesting that he was Ted Lasso and things like this. But I think, you're judging someone by an accent. It's wrong. You're judging someone by how they look. I know it's absolutely wrong. And I think that was the feeling. And I get the feeling as well. There's certainly within scouting networks, there's ill feeling towards North American players, much as the same would be across many leagues. I think there's a feeling towards Irish players as well. There's a negative feeling around Irish players that are technically not up to it. And I think certainly when you see Brendan Aronson and Tyler Adams. Tyler Adams, he's someone that I've admired for a really long time, particularly when I've watched the qualification for the World Cup, seen him play for the US in the midfield. He is the main player for the US. I know they've got Pulisic, who gives them the creative spark, and Aronson that gives them the energy in the side, but Tyler Adams is the player that really makes them tick, and I think he'll be certainly one to watch across the Premier League season into the World Cup. But for Leeds to be able to sign him, and I think he's gone under the radar a bit playing at Leipzig. Many people won't really have known too much of him, but what a player I think he will become. I think he holds his position really well. I think he's a player that controls the ball really well, takes it in tight areas, gets his team out of trouble, and also has that high energy around him. And I think, I was down at the MLS All-Star game a couple of weeks ago, Will, and it was down in Minnesota or in Minneapolis. I was talking to Adrian Heath, who's Minnesota's coach, and he was telling me about the amount of players that he's put in to English clubs, particularly 6 or 7 English clubs that he would have regular contact with, who's turned the nose up at Alphonso Davies. Alphonso Davies was going to go to, could have gone to actually a championship club now. And they said he's not good enough. Alphonso Davies now, he's worth probably 100, 150 million. There's no better fullback in the world than Davies. And I think that's the feeling towards North American players. And I think, as I said before, that's the feeling towards Irish players as well. There's that snobbishness almost that they're not good enough before they've really had a chance to review and have a look at them. And I think Adams now and Aronson are proving that players are good enough to play in the Premier League with that high energy approach, with that technical ability, of course, that they have. And I think they'll make a difference for Leeds this season. And I think Jesse Marsh deserves a lot of credit. I know it's only early days, but watching them at the weekend, the energy that they play with, and it's so exciting to watch. I thought it was a brilliant game to watch. I thought Chelsea contributed to it as well early on. But once Leeds got the second goal, it looked unlikely that Chelsea were going to get anything from the game. And I really admire what Leeds have done this season, particularly with the pressure that Marsh and the club has been under.
Well, Kev, from Jesse Marsh coming in to replace Marcelo Bielsa, what we really want your view on is Kevin McStay coming in to replace James Horn as the Mayo manager for next season. Well, he's there for 4 years. Yeah. It's a 3+1, I think, is how Mayo announced it. Obviously, look, Mayo have come up a little bit short, semi-final stage. And then you're looking at the final year before and all the hope there was under Horn and potentially winning an All-Ireland, and then they come up short against Tyrone. What's the hope about McStay coming in now?
Well, first of all, I want to wish him all the very best. Kevin and his staff, I think, personally, I think it's a very good appointment. I know how well thought of he is over there in Mayo as well, with everything that he's achieved as well. So I think every Mayo fan, we all have hope, and maybe it is the hope that does kill you in the end. But we've got so much talent, and maybe it is about building. I'm glad that he's got those at least 3 years to build from. I think it might be a 2-year build over that time. Next season might be the time to get to blood 1 or 2 players, so Kevin can have a look at all those players. And then the year after, 2024 now, it might be that might be the time when we see Mayo having another real crack at an All-Ireland. But I'm delighted it's been sorted, because it seemed to have dragged on for a while. I think it is the right appointment. I think with his experience, with what he brings, he's not won too many fans within the Mayo County Board over the years because of how outspoken he's been. But I think it needs a strong character. It needs somebody that's going to go in there and lead that group. The talent is still there. The talent will always be produced, and I'm hopeful. Well, that's the way I look at it. I'm hopeful. You have to be hopeful. That's the way it is as a Mayo fan.
Are you saying you didn't enjoy the drama that we were all enjoying, where there was 4 or 5 different packages being put together, and we were watching these management teams being assembled and then